If you like the story, you can support the author on Patreon. Link is in the description.
Chapter 1, The Awakening of Hikari Hyuga. With a quick movement, a 3-year-old boy automatically pushed his upper body up from his cozy bed. His name was Hikari Hyuga. He started slowly gasping for air, showing how suddenly he had woken up. This wasn't a normal waking up for him, his Byakugan had turned on by itself, without him even knowing. Around his eyes, veins bulged prominently. With keen interest, Hikari began examining his young body, noticing his small hands in a way that felt strange. His gaze then shifted to look around the room he found himself in, feeling very surprised. Understanding that he was now a child in the fantastical Naruto world, a place he only knew from stories, made him feel shocked. He then finally accepted that this really wasn't his old life, he had somehow really moved to this universe from his previous life as an adult on Earth. And there was no going back as well. I finally gained full control of this body. Thank God, over the past 3 days, his soul from Earth had somehow found its way into this young body, by an inexplicable process beyond his present scientific understanding, and, at first, had been fighting for control with the original soul of the 3-year-old boy. It was a battle with no clear victor. Instead, the two souls merged, giving rise to a new consciousness now also referring to himself as Hikari, which was the name of that child. Even in the most vulnerable state, the soul of a 3-year-old child from this world matched in power with his adult soul from Earth, making a merger the best possible outcome for the other, earthly spirit. Following that, once merged, this newly fused soul, now also calling himself Hikari, began the complex process of adapting to the child's chakra and body, along with absorbing all relevant memories. This period of adjustment was far from easy, lasting 3 full days. Throughout these days, Hikari existed in a sort of limbo, caught in a deeply uncomfortable, blurred state of semi-consciousness that could best be described as some bizarre coma. It was a trying time, marked by confusion and a sense of disorientation as 2 distinct sets of memories and experiences intertwined. Now, as he finally emerged from this state, Hikari couldn't help but feel a profound sense of relief. The ordeal had ended, and he was now a new being, with the memories of his past life on Earth and his current life as a Hyuga child joined into one. It seems that I acquired Byakugan during this whole ordeal, and it activated instinctively as soon as I woke up, Hikari mused, his gaze wandering over the familiar yet newly intriguing confines of his room. As he turned his attention inward, observing his inner organs working in real time and the intricate web of his chakra pathway system components, a sense of wonder washed over him. Is this what it feels like to have superpowers, he thought, a hint of joy threading through his amazement. The sensation was extraordinary, the potent energy and chakra amassing around his eyes granting him abilities far beyond his wildest imaginations. Hikari was experiencing a profound shift in perception. The world around him, once ordinary, now lay open and transparent, visible in ways he could never have anticipated. The clarity and depth of vision afforded by the Byakugan were astonishing. It was as if he had been given the ultimate tools of observation and insight, clairvoyance that pierced through walls, a 360-degree vision that left no blind spots, and a telescopic range that could discern details from great distances. This newfound perspective was both exhilarating and overwhelming. To transition from an ordinary existence on Earth to wielding powers that were completely magical, in his previous life, and this many of them at the same time, was a shock of the highest order. Hikari felt a huge wave of elation as he contemplated the extent of his abilities. The world seemed different now, richer, and filled with endless possibilities. And there was more to it than just the advanced capabilities of Byakugan. Hikari gradually noticed that everything he experienced felt much sharper. Colors around him were more vivid, more pronounced, as if the world had suddenly been painted in a richer palette. His mind, too, seemed to process visual information at a speed that was unheard of in his previous life, making it feel as if time itself had slowed down for him. This wasn't just a new ability, it was a complete transformation of his sensory experience, akin to upgrading a computer's graphics card across a dozen generations in one fell swoop. The enhancements extended to his perception of light and shadow as well. Areas of the room that would normally be hidden in shadow or dimly lit were as clear to him as everything else, revealing details that would have otherwise gone unnoticed. Similarly, he could adapt to intense levels of light streaming in from the windows without being overwhelmed, his eyes adjusting effortlessly to maintain clarity regardless of the lighting conditions. Hikari's gaze then swept across his room, taking in the surroundings that reflected the wealth and status of the Hyuga clan, especially of someone of his pedigree within the family, the real member of the main branch family. The space was adorned in the feudal style typical of the Hyuga household, yet it boasted a richness that spoke of ancient elegance. The furnishings were of high quality, with ornate designs that married functionality with aesthetic appeal. It was also very far beyond what one small child would require in terms of just its size alone. His attention then eventually drifted to an image placed near his bed, a portrait of a young couple dressed in Konoha's standard Jonin shinobi uniforms, their features unmistakably also Hyuga with their pale eyes and traditional hairstyles. These were his parents, as recalled from his integrated memories. However, instead of warmth or happiness, a surge of anger welled up within him at the mere sight of them. The poor physical condition of the body he now inhabited bruised and beaten, and the soul's profound emotional turmoil and fragmentation that had facilitated his successful transmigration were, in his awakened eyes, directly attributable to these two individuals. This realization cast a shadow over the room's elegance, tainting his perception of his new environment with a bitterness that ran deep. The physical scars and emotional wounds he bore were a stark contrast to the wealth and prestige his family's surroundings suggested. Thankfully, in this strange world, even children have really advanced physical stats, so the damage has been mostly healed by now. During these 3 days I was in a coma. Hikari shook his head, diverting his gaze away from the picture as this thought crossed his mind. The original soul in this body would never have thought badly of its parents. However, now, with the knowledge of an adult from a previous life, knowing the Naruto story, having a view on related matters at hand, from the outside, and a really stronger cognitive ability, for some reason, even than his old form on Earth, not to mention that a 3-year-old child, the new Hikari could only reach one conclusion at present. This conclusion led him to feel no positive feelings or opinions towards the body's recently passed away biological parents. In fact, they were both negative, broadly speaking, instead. At that moment, Hikari also realized this was the first time he could think so clearly since he had been in that limbo state for the past few days. He was amazed at how wonderful it felt to be in control again. And not only that, Hikari thought, I feel like my ability to think clearly, process information quickly and in a very large capacity, compared to before, remember things, and form new memories is way stronger than it ever was in my past life on Earth or in this body's memory. These thoughts came to him as he was previously reflecting on the past events and developments, that started unfolding since a few months ago, which had left the original body in such a poor state, and how it all determined his new feelings toward his parents. Why is this happening? Could it be because two souls have merged into one? Is that also why I was able to activate the Byakugan so early? Are dojutsu, souls, and minds really that closely linked in this world? Hikari found himself pondering many things at once, fully using his new mental abilities to theorize and understand many aspects in just a few seconds. Yet, for this newfound edge to be utilized to its fullest potential, there's also a necessity for balance. He contemplated further. It seems that I'll need to rigorously train my physical energy next to match with the increase in my spiritual energy. Only then can I also, in theory, expand my overall chakra potential pool and harness these abilities to their fullest potential. Hikari found that he could recall many details about the Naruto story and universe from his past life's memory, much more vividly and accurately than one might expect, given how little significance the Naruto manga held for him previously and how vaguely marked it was there. It seemed to him as though this enhanced memory was a bonus, or a buff, he received as a transmigrator. He thought about how some third-rate novels he knew from his past life involved characters getting a system after they transmigrated into new worlds, something he found utterly unappealing. To him, the idea of being stuck with a system, a contrived, artificial construct that could dictate his actions and monitor him constantly, was far from desirable. It felt too much like being under someone else's control, trapped by a set of rules and guidelines laid out by an unknown creator with possibly suspicious intentions. Hikari was relieved he didn't end up with such a system. Instead, he preferred the natural abilities and knowledge he had, seeing them as far more valuable, freeing, and overall safer. Hikari gradually turned his attention to the world beyond his room, noting that it was daylight outside. It should be afternoon, he guessed, his gaze drifting across the courtyard visible from his window. But then, his sight began to extend even further, a testament to the incredible telescopic ability granted by the Byakugan. His vision pierced through the walls of other buildings, encountering only a handful of people. Among them, Hikari spotted several Hyuga with surprised expressions, each bearing the distinctive cursed seals on their foreheads. They are from the branch family, he realized, noting their startled looks directed towards him. They whispered among themselves before one hurried off, possibly to inform someone else, eventually moving beyond the current reach of Hikari's Byakugan. As he witnessed this, Hikari quickly pieced together a few explanations for their rushed behavior and possible next actions, from what he had just seen in this body's memory, even as his mind wandered back to thoughts of his past life on another planet/dimension. In his previous life there, Hikari was just an average man in every sense: looks, intellect, status, and wealth. This averageness led to a life devoid of serious relationships, happiness, and pleasures that seemed reserved for those more fortunate or talented. Adding to his struggles, he could only watch helplessly as his parents, the only people who truly cared for him and whom he deeply cared about, succumbed to severe illnesses. His inability to afford better medical care meant he couldn't extend their lives. Tragically, Hikari's own life mirrored theirs. He too passed away in his early 40s due to a sudden illness and a lack of resources to combat it before waking up here a few days ago in that strange manner. Determined not to repeat the powerlessness and vulnerabilities of his past life, Hikari vowed to seize control of his destiny in this new world. He resolved to amass as much power as possible, ensuring a life filled with pleasure and positivity, making the most of this extraordinary second chance. This time, fortune seemed to favor him. He had been reborn into the main branch of the Hyuga clan, one of the wealthiest and, more crucially, most powerful shinobi families in the entire ninja world, a place ruled by strength and might. He vowed to never squander it. This twist of fate gave Hikari a unique advantage and a clear path to fulfill his vows. He recognized the significance of his new status, not just for the material wealth it brought, but for the potential to gain the strength and power he had longed for in his previous life. With the abilities of the Hyuga at his disposal and the lessons from his past life etched into his memory, Hikari was more determined than ever to carve out a successful, fulfilling life for himself, one where he would never again feel helpless or defeated by any circumstances. As Hikari finished reflecting on his past life, organizing his thoughts, making promises to himself, and feeling a surge of excitement about his future life, he suddenly shifted to a state of calm. His Byakugan detected an older, powerful male figure slowly approaching his room after entering his range of vision. Hikari, now composed and ready, thought, "So you are here." Chapter 2, The Silent Game with the Fifth Elder. As the older individual softly slid open the Japanese-style door to Hikari's room, he stepped inside. Hikari, with his Byakugan activated, quickly took in every detail of the man's appearance. He appeared to be in his mid-40s, which was close but slightly past the prime peak age for a shinobi in this world, generally considered to be around mid-30s. Hikari knew from his memory already that this man was a father, with 3 qualified children who had already been married and living on their own in different places. These children now resided in different areas of the main branch's central housing within the stretched-out Hyuga compound. This man had one of the highest authorities within the Hyuga clan, besides the Hyuga patriarch himself, as he was one of the Hyuga clan's main branch's 9 and only elders. His youngest child, already in their mid-teens, was considered an adult by the standards of this world, with the others being in their early and mid-20s. So, alongside his wife, and some branch family attendants she was in charge of, they were the only current inhabitants of this large Fifth Elder's line's main estate. It was located right in the center of the entire Hyuga's compound, just near other elders' main estates and in the last circle of housing in front of the patriarch's own. Despite being slightly past his prime, this man is certainly very strong and not to be underestimated. He's on a completely different level compared to those branch members I observed earlier, Hikari concluded almost instantly after his thorough examination. Through the precise vision of his Byakugan, Hikari could see the exceptional level of training and care the man had put into maintaining his body. His chakra pathway system was notably well developed, indicating a significant reservoir of chakra potential that spoke to his prowess as a shinobi. Moreover, Hikari noted the man's overall bearing, which radiated the authority of someone accustomed to wielding great social power within the clan. Every step he took was measured and deliberate, characteristic of a seasoned professional whose movements were honed to perfection, always ready to jump into action. His facial expression was that of a battle-hardened veteran, giving away nothing. In great contrast to the branch family members Hikari had observed before, this man's demeanor revealed absolutely no weaknesses or emotions, his face as unreadable as a poker player's. As his feet touched the tatami floor of the room, designed in the classic Japanese style, his aura was unmistakable. He radiated a sense of strength and authority. Clad in the traditional attire of the Hyuga clan, his long hair perfectly complementing the distinctive white eyes that marked their heritage, the elder's entrance into the room was commanding. Notably, his forehead was also unmarked, free of the cursed seal that members of the side branch typically bore, further showing his status within the main family and the clan's hierarchy. Side branch members were all expected to cover the cursed seal at all times. Takumai Hyuga, the fifth elder of the Hyuga clan, one of the most powerful elite jonin in the entire clan, if my limited memory serves me right, Hikari thought, quickly piecing together and analyzing the identity of the man before him. In fact, there was no difference in power or strength between various elders, they were just historically numerically sorted randomly, and alongside the patriarch's line they constituted the so-called main branch. As he tried to piece together this information, he simultaneously made an effort to rise from his large bed, intending to show the proper respect and salute while saying, "Fifth Elder Sama. It's all right, Hikari-kun. Don't get up, just rest, you were pretty hurt before," Takumai responded with a calm yet firm tone, moving swiftly to Hikari's side. He assisted the young boy with confidence and ease, guiding him back to rest against his pillow and gently but firmly preventing him from rising again with a still calm look on his face. On the other hand, after nodding and stopping moving, throughout this interaction, Hikari couldn't shake the feeling that Takumai's keen eyes were also evaluating him silently. As the elder drew closer, his gaze seemed particularly drawn to Hikari's still active Byakugan. Aware that he himself had the potential to someday rise to a position of influence on par with Takumai's, Hikari nonetheless recognized the current reality of his situation. At just 3 years old, he was at the very beginning of his journey, and the shadow cast by his parents' past actions he deemed bizarre and detrimental also complicated his path to getting a great role within the clan, such as that of a third elder, that should rightfully belong to only him now, in the foreseeable future. The extent of this impact and the steps he needed to take to mitigate or reverse its effects remained unclear to him. Given these developments, Hikari understood the importance of adhering to the clan's deeply rooted values. In the presence of an elder like Takumai, and within the hierarchical structure of the Hyuga clan, a clan that places immense value on tradition, history, manners, and a clear understanding of one's place, he needed to exhibit the utmost respect now. Recognizing his current position as akin to that of an infant in the eyes of the clan's leadership, and his lower standing within the clan hierarchy, Hikari chose to act like that. Such conduct was essential, not just for maintaining harmony now but also for laying the groundwork for his future endeavors within the clan. Therefore, if the elder didn't stop him on time, he would have really at least stood up to salute as well. As for bowing to him, it was probably only something that the side branch members had to do in the presence of elders. Meanwhile, Takumai's demeanor softened slightly as he still continued to speak. "Hikari-kun, in the future, there's really no need to greet me with such formality. After all, I am legally your custodian at the moment. And please, feel free to call me Takumai-san, or even Takumai-sensei if you agree to become my student as we talked about before next, that is," he suggested, still maintaining a close proximity to Hikari's bed, well within what could be considered the family's social circle radius Hikari knew about in his past life. Despite the sternness that usually marked his expressions, there was also a noticeably warmer pitch in his voice now for some reason. As Hikari quickly processed the events of the past few moments, his mind began to spin with thoughts. The activation of the Byakugan at my age is probably a much bigger deal than I initially thought. This is a very good development for me. He analyzed almost instantaneously, soaking up every bit of information like a sponge. This time, his observations weren't limited to the physical closeness, the tone of voice, or body language. Takumai's choice of words, especially in comparison to their interactions before Hikari's Byakugan activation, was particularly telling. The fact that Takumai added the suffix kun after Hikari's name, despite being an elder of the clan and considering Hikari's mere 3 years of age, was nothing short of extraordinary. It was exceedingly rare for anyone in their world to address a 3-year-old so formally and seriously, which spoke volumes, especially given Takumai's esteemed status within the clan. Moreover, the shift from using Sama to San about himself suggested a significant change in Takumai's view of their relationship. It implied that Hikari's standing should be considered much higher than before, not yet equal but far removed from the respect typically expected from a child of Hikari's age towards someone of Takumai's rank. Although the Byakugan enhanced its wielder's ability to psychoanalyze opponents by observing physiological responses such as increased sweat production, accelerated heart rates, and other chemical changes in the body, making it difficult for most people to deceive or act in front of a Hyuga, Hikari's couldn't use that approach currently, due to obvious reasons, to analyze Takumai, so he applied some broad knowledge from his previous life. His Byakugan had only recently awakened, leaving his abilities in a nascent, almost blank state. Furthermore, the majority of the Hyuga, especially elite Jonin-level figures like Takumai, have mastered the art of controlling these external indicators. Their profound understanding of the Byakugan, combined with an intimate knowledge of their own body's workings, allows them to regulate their physiological reactions meticulously. As the conversation unfolded, Takumai continued to inquire about Hikari's health, displaying a semblance of concern that seemed somewhat out of character compared to their previous interactions. Hikari, for his part, assured Takumai that he was completely fine now, answering each question in turn. This exchange, he noted, constituted a significant portion of the total time they had spent together since Hikari had moved into the Hyuga complex a few months ago, following the death of his parents. Takumai, as a prominent elder of the clan, had numerous responsibilities that kept him away from this housing estate. He was deeply involved in managing the Hyuga clan's private commercial ventures that his own fifth elder main line was historically involved, or their own share of the pie better said. Additionally, his duties extended to various roles within the clan and possibly even assignments inside of the Konoha administration as well, leaving him little time for personal interactions between them. The conversations they had had in the past were brief and marked by a cooler, more distant demeanor from Takumai. The main thing Hikari got from those interactions is that he could soon start his training with him after he turned 3 years old, which Hikaru did around a month ago, but refused to start trying due to some childish reasons. And, now, with Hikari being the last surviving member of the third elder main line and still just a child, it fell upon Takumai to oversee Hikari's inheritance and responsibilities as well. As their conversation progressed in a following few minutes, Hikari began to get the gist of Takumai's underlying motives at the beginning of their seemingly casual exchange between an elder and a young'un, to evaluate Hikari's capabilities for his motives and also his future role within the Hyuga clan, likely on some kind of mission from the rest of the higher UPS. It's good that he's so ambitious and risk-taking. At least he won't stand in the way of me claiming my rightful property and status in the future if all goes according to plan, he thought, feeling a surge of relief before he suddenly experienced piercing pain in his eyes. Chapter 3, Conversation about the Byakugan. As the previous thoughts circulated in his mind, Hikari's expression suddenly changed. A sharp pain pulsed across his eyes, causing his youthful face to contort into a big frown. Simultaneously the veins around his eyes receded as the piercing gaze of the dojutsu faded away. His eyes returned to their normal white appearance, characteristic of the Hyuga clan. Quickly observing the change in Hikari, Takumai responded with a reassuring tone, "Don't worry, Hikari-kun. You've just awakened your Byakugan, and at such a young age, without any kind of training to control these eyes, it's normal that you've overexerted them quickly. You should be able to activate the Byakugan again after some rest. Probably later today or tomorrow morning after you take a sleep. The discomfort you are feeling now will also fade in a few minutes or half an hour at the longest, so you don't need to worry about that, just hold on and try to acclimate for similar situations in the future. After all, in our clan, it happens a lot," Takumai continued informing him, alluding to situations of their dojutsu of potential overuse. "Also, the more you activate it in the future, the better you will instinctively get at efficiently controlling it, as well as using it for longer durations, even without any outside guidance. But, going to the failure is never good. You should use those eyes in the future as much as possible to improve them, however, you should never go to complete overexertion and failure like today. There are better methods and protocols for strengthening them." Takumai continued speaking for quite a while, after seeing Hikari was silent and eagerly listening to his explanations. It was obvious that he started hinting at something like training him again. Takumai patiently dispelled all of Hikari's concerns in a simple way without withholding any information. Something that reassured Hikari quite well and led him to respond similarly. "I understand, Takumai-sensei, thank you for all the clarification. And if your offer is still valid, this junior would like to ask for you to guide me to the right way of using these eyes in the right way, amongst other similar things, in the future as well," Hikaru unnaturally voiced. Hikari finally responded after carefully listening in silence for a while to all that valuable information. He decided that it was best to be direct at this time to connect all the possible sudden changes in his personality to this exact incident that brought him into this coma. His voice carried a note of gratitude and slight determination, though a slight frown still lingered on his face due to the previous matter. This confirmed Takumai's accurate guess about the discomfort that remained even after Hikari had deactivated his Byakugan now. Not only that, Hikari felt like his eyes were already seeing multiple sights of the elder inside the room due to the temporary loss of vision caused by his first official use of his Byakugan. After hearing Hikari's response, Takumai, who had maintained his usual stern and composed demeanor, softened his tone further, indicating another shift in his attitude towards the young Hyuga. "Of course, the offer stands," he said, his voice carrying a slight satisfaction. I've mentioned before that as soon as you are ready to begin, we can start your official training, covering various areas you might be interested in related to our clan's expertise. Our job as elders is to help grow and support new talents in the main branch and the Hyuga clan, just like you. Waking up your Byakugan so young is very important, and it would be a big waste for our clan if we didn't help someone with your abilities reach their full potential. If we don't help someone like you, then who should we help? So, I'll be the one to officially teach you in the future. Hikari-kun, nice to know you again. You can ask me anything now. Then please, I would like you to tell me more most important information about the Byakugan Dojutsu that I awakened, in general, sensei, that you think would be the most valuable to me both now and overall for my future development, Hikari immediately replied. He recognized that at this moment, it was more beneficial for him to soak up as much knowledge as possible rather than pretend to understand a topic about which he knew very little. After all, he was now living in the reality of this world, far removed from the confines of a comic book. The Naruto series from his previous life might have provided only about 10% of the crucial information about this world in general. That was only surface-level knowledge at the end of the day, not only about Byakugan, but everything in general. Good for inspiration, but it wasn't practicable and actionable on its own. Therefore, he wanted to extract as much high-value information from Takumi as possible. And the best way to achieve that would be to just let an expert like him speak about what he thinks is the most important instead of blindly poking and guessing around for a long time. Takumi gave a slight nod before beginning his explanation right away. I won't talk about what the Byakugan actually is, as you're probably already familiar with that aspect. Instead, I'll focus on how to utilize it properly now that you've awakened it. It's extremely rare for someone to awaken the Byakugan at such a young age as yours and without any assistance. Typically, it's a few years later in childhood, because children at your age usually lack the chakra capacity to awaken the Byakugan. At that later time, it's done using specialized clan protocols of hand seals and chakra control, under the supervision of clan seniors, among other ingredients. That's another reason why it's so very rare to be in your situation, and why your Byakugan quickly exhausted itself along with your chakra. To be frank, it's because you don't yet know how to use it properly. But I'll explain how to do so next and help you work on it over time. Are you following along so far, Hikari-kun? So, in theory, this could mean that I also have a really strong innate instinctive chakra control, a good chakra capacity, and a good genetic advantage, in order for me to open the Byakugan so early. Hikari mulled over Takumi's explanation, thoughtfully considering each word. He mentioned it's extremely rare to awaken the Byakugan at my age, but not unprecedented. From what I recall of the original story, it's quite possible I might have set a new record. Is that the case, or is he choosing not to disclose this to keep me from becoming overconfident in the future? Hikari thought, all while nodding to Takumi, signaling him to continue lecturing. Having been born into the main branch of the Hyuga clan, Hikari had access to many high-quality, valuable scrolls tailored for children scattered throughout his previous home, where he lived with his parents, ever since he could remember. Both of his parents were also real elite jonin who often discussed such matters amongst themselves and with him. As a result, Hikari had solid foundational knowledge about the Byakugan, its significance as an ancient Kekii Genkai of their clan, the nature of what Kekii Genkai actually was, various shinobi high-impact knowledge, and the various powers that could be manifested through the Byakugan. This information was already embedded in the memory of his current body. With his background knowledge, Hikari was now focused on getting practical tips from Takumi, looking for advice that was right for his own situation in developing the Byakugan. He was eager to understand the best ways to train after awakening his Byakugan so young, searching for specific exercises or strategies that would be most helpful to him. Having grasped the basics from what Takumi had explained earlier on why he awakened it so young, Hikari was keen to discover what his next training steps should be. He wondered how to use his unique position to better his Byakugan abilities. Thus, with a forward-looking attitude and a thirst for practical guidance, Hikari next replied and asked Takumi what the best steps would be for him to further develop his Byakugan, taking into account his distinct situation of having awakened it at an unusually young age. That's an excellent question, Hikari-kun. Your first step should be to learn how to intentionally activate and deactivate your Byakugan smoothly. Moving from instinctual use to deliberate control is vital, especially considering your youth and its recent awakening. Keeping your Byakugan under control is the most crucial part at this stage. Once you've mastered this, you can focus on enhancing your Byakugan's abilities further. I'll arrange for some scrolls to be brought to you that cover this topic. They'll guide you on using simple hand seals and chakra control techniques to manage the chakra flow of your Byakugan, as well as doing it from your biologically simpler facial muscle memory side. It's also in there. It's all quite straightforward, and you'll find all the instructions you need in those scrolls later. As Takumi shared this guidance, his demeanor remained composed yet approachable, a balance that reflected both his status as an elder and his role as a mentor. His voice carried a tone of encouragement as if hinting at his genuine interest in Hikari's future development. However, Hikari still had more questions. Then, what would be the first step after I've mastered activating and deactivating the Byakugan perfectly? He asked, putting on the act of a slightly curious child. He knew he needed to play this part. It was essential for gathering as much information as quickly as possible, allowing him to strategize more effectively later when left alone in this room. He planned to waste no time. Takumi didn't seem bothered by Hikari's question and responded openly, that next step would be to learn how to use each of the Byakugan's 3 main abilities separately, instead of activating them all at once like you just did. Using long-range vision, clairvoyance, and 360-degree vision simultaneously puts a lot of stress on both your eyes and chakra reserves. Remember, you're still a child, and even we, the strongest shinobi in the Hyuga clan, typically use only one of these abilities at a time during battles or similar situations. This, too, is something that comes with practice and chakra control, just like activating and deactivating your Byakugan. Eventually, you'll be able to switch between these 3 modes of Byakugan functionality with just a quick one-handed seal, or perhaps even without any seals at all, judging by your level of talent. I'll send you some materials on this process as well so you can start getting familiar with it sooner. Takumi maintained a patient and instructive demeanor, speaking with the clarity and precision of a seasoned teacher. And it was as if his eyes, though usually stern, held a flicker of encouragement, reflecting his confidence in Hikari's potential to master this quite easily. Yes, I kind of saw this answer coming. It's what I expected. And I need to remember that, no matter how strong my spiritual energy might be, I'm still just a child, and it hasn't reached its peak yet. So, I must use the Byakugan abilities wisely and efficiently. Hikari reflected internally. He understood that beyond the overall chakra capacity, the capacity of one's spiritual energy, or yin release capacity, he theorized, played a crucial role in the majority of dojutsu techniques, apart from the biological/genetic inheritance of the dojutsu as a Kekkei Genkai. Therefore, in theory, he could potentially utilize all 3 Byakugan modes to a greater extent than the rest of the Hyuga clan in the future, thanks to the unique function of his combined soul. However, for the time being, he had to acknowledge his current limitations as a child. Hikari was aware that beyond the 3 main and most commonly used functionalities of the Byakugan, all Byakugan users also typically gain the ability to see with incredible clarity. Hikari suspected that his early awakening and the numerous advantages he possessed might result in a purer form of the Byakugan compared to other members of the Hyuga clan. He theorized that this would allow him to observe the world with even greater detail than them in the future, which was very useful for various purposes. Imagine the advantages when everything becomes sharper to the observer, distances become easier to gauge, colors more vivid, and the mind processes visual information at a speed beyond the norm. In the thick of a high-intensity battle, especially with capabilities surpassing those of other Hyugas, such enhancements could prove invaluable. Consider the strategic edge gained when one can see in low light as if it were daylight, or adjust effortlessly to blinding brightness without hindrance. Hikari, with his unique blend of sociological insight from his previous life and the innate observational prowess granted by his Byakugan, felt like he could indeed become a master of psychoanalysis on the battlefield, both political and physical. His ability to read and exploit the subtlest cues in an opponent's demeanor could offer him unparalleled strategic depth, allowing him to anticipate and counter moves before they are even made. This combination of psychological acuity and physical skill could set Hikari apart. Also, if a skillful Byakugan user really pushes how well they can process what they see, they might feel like time is slowing down, letting them catch every detail and react perfectly. That was something my stupid father could do for a while during his battles, and that's why some people even called that he was on par with Sakumo Hitaki in reaction speed, because of it. This skill made him one of the strongest in the Hyuga clan, maybe the strongest before he died, since the patriarch is pretty old and not at his best anymore. So, if I can also develop this skill because of my very pure Byakugan, and that genetic predisposition, to an even greater level, then being as fast as someone like Minato Namikaze, in reaction speed, could definitely happen, Hikari thought excitedly while now waiting for Takumi to speak again. However, Takumi's next words took Hikari by surprise. So, what do you think about that kid who beat you up like this into a blackout? What do you plan to do about that? Takumai suddenly asked, completely changing the subject. His poker face remained unchanged, stern and unreadable. This abrupt shift in conversation, touching on a sensitive topic, caught Hikari off guard a little if he was being honest. Chapter 4, Hikari's Rejection of the Will of Fire. To understand the unique circumstances surrounding Hikari's recent situation that led to his passing out and strange transmigration, we must delve into the history of the parents of this body, named Yoshiro and Akari Hyuga, who were quite the anomaly within the Hyuga clan, and even his entire lineage, which was the third elder's lineage of the main branch family. Yoshiro, born into the main branch, married Akari, a side branch member, after a childhood matchmaking. This kind of union was nothing unusual within the Hyuga clan, especially since Akari had great potential and Byakugan purity was valued above all else by the main branch for their lineage's genetic prosperity continuation. Therefore, Akari was chosen personally by Yoshiro's father, the third elder at the time, and was approved by the patriarch due to her exceptional potential. Hence, Akari was lifted from the cursed seal jutsu, integrating her into the main branch, right when they finally married. Meanwhile, the lineage of the third elder was distinct from other main branch families, passionately advocating for Konoha's will of fire ideology, often prioritizing the village's interests over the clan's, for some reason, since shortly after the founding of Konoha village. There were some rumors, however, that perhaps Hashirama Senju personally saved Hikari's grandfather, the third elder before his father, and the one in this position when Konoha was founded, during the Warring States period during some intense battle. And that perhaps that type of thinking leaning toward Konoha's interest originated inside this lineage at that time. Meanwhile, they were the only ones behaving in that way in the entire clan since the side branch had no courage or power to say anything due to the cursed seals on their forehead. How could they care about or have the guts to care about the Konoha or will of fire then? This dedication led to the third elder's main family line being nearly decimated during the First Great Ninja War, fighting for Konoha. The main branch, at first, tolerated all of this, seeing it as a means to align closer with Konoha's central power, and giving a good signal to the rest of the village. They probably thought, since you asked for it, then you go for it. Yoshiro, however, took this ideology to an even higher extreme. As the first main branch member educated at the Konoha Ninja Academy and a close associate and subordinate of Sakumo Hatake, his dedication to the will of fire surpassed even that of his predecessors. Together with his wife and childhood sweetheart Akari, Yoshiro openly criticized the main branch's discriminatory practices against the side branch of the Konoha's top branch, saying things like "we are all equal citizens of Konoha," always gossiping outside, and at home often advocating for the Hyuga clan to contribute more actively to the village and its military efforts. Almost like, he didn't care about family's interest at all, but only third Hokage's interest. Now understanding his parents' infamous history made Hikari less surprised about the rumors and their sudden and quick deaths right after the Second Shinobi World War began a few months ago. The talk within the Hyuga clan and the whispers he heard about his parents possibly being traitors, accused of sharing clan secrets with Konoha, started to make sense. His father was the previous third elder after his grandfather passed away, someone who would know deep clan secrets, and Hikari knew it could be it. For Hikari, now looking at his situation from an outsider's perspective, piecing together his parents' story wasn't too difficult. He just had to put the timeline in order, use his own opinions and knowledge about the original series and the Hyuga family from his past, various historical books he came across in this body's memory, recall and think over the rumors he often heard around the Hyuga compound, and reflect on the things his parents used to say about Konoha directly to him. By doing this, he could better understand their personalities, their indoctrinated beliefs, and the whole situation and best course of action. Furthermore, Hikari had zero intention of ever mimicking his parents' self-destructive actions even slightly. He didn't see himself as a foolish tool as he considered those two to be at the worst and simple-minded sheep at best. Just remembering the desolate state of the third elder's estate where he lived before was enough to explain everything. In his view, with all the knowledge from his modern past life, the will of fire seemed more like a brainwashing propaganda tool to keep Hiruzen Sarutobi and his three crony close friends and comrades in power rather than some revolutionary or noble ideology. It was the most basic form of manipulation. As for the village, Hikari couldn't see what Konoha had ever done for him. Everything he had in his life so far came from the Hyuga clan. He didn't share the same outlook as Itaki and Shisui, whom he saw as mentally unstable and bizarre traitors. And even if Konoha actually did something to him, he would still choose to value only his own interest in this life, and reach the highest power in this world no matter what it took, and which alliance he needed to break. The idea of doing it out of respect for his parents' ideals seemed even more absurd to Hikari. To him, they were the root cause of his current plight. As a rightful heir of the main branch, he found himself neglected, ostracized, mocked, and bullied by his own clan, branded as the son of traitors. The assets and resources that should have been his were locked away and controlled by others, leaving him as nothing more than an orphan. Even before their deaths, Hikari's memories of his parents were sparse, seeing them only every few months as they were constantly away on missions for Konoha, serving the Hokage like a couple of loyal dogs. Hikari vividly recalled the loneliness that enveloped the original young soul of this body in the vast Third Elder Estate, even before his parents' deaths. The brief moments of joy when they returned home were always short-lived, as they would soon depart for another mission. This cycle repeated itself, leaving Hikari under the care of servants rather than the warm presence of family. The estate, despite its grandeur, felt more like a cage than a home, echoing with the emptiness of his longing for parental affection and a sense of belonging that never truly materialized. Hikari still vividly remembered the original body discovering a secret letter from his parents hidden in his room shortly after their passing. Written as a final farewell in the case that they die, they explained that all their actions were for the greater good and the Konoha big family. They expressed hopes of watching over him from above and urged him to become a respectable Konoha shinobi like them. The words, meant to be comforting, instead felt hollow to the young boy back then. Due to their eminent positions, they didn't even need to talk to Hokage all their lives if didn't want to, not to mention going on actual shinobi missions, let alone going to dangerous wars. As the last living people of a main branch elder family, they would be the last in line Hyuga family would send to work for Konoha. As the noblest of the nobles, as the elder and his wife, it was even considered shameful and crazy for them to do so by the rest of the clan later. The notion of the greater good they sacrificed so much, for now, seemed completely abstract and distant compared to the tangible absence and neglect he experienced in his childhood. But, thankfully, he could finally see everything clearly today. This was all obvious to him now, and those were all conclusions he reached, even during the 3 days of his memory and soul fusion in limbo. After all, it was not hard to reach this answer. You just needed to have the most basic modern education and basic intellect. Indeed, the original Hikari would have never entertained such thoughts about his parents. Despite the rumors swirling around them and the bullying he faced as a consequence, he held on to a deep love and respect for them unlike the ridicule and negative feelings he had now. This unwavering admiration was partly due to the influence of his parents' views and ideals, which, to a young child, felt like undisputed truths. Children often mirror their parents, adopting their beliefs and attitudes, as they are the first significant sources of information and authority figures in their lives. However, the Hikari of now is not the Hikari of the past. The experiences and knowledge from his previous life have reshaped him, granting him a perspective and intelligence that the original Hikari lacked. After quickly going over everything he knew about his parents in his mind and letting out a mental sigh inwardly, Hikari responded to Takumai's earlier question. I don't think much about that guy. He doesn't matter to me. But since he did that to me, he's going to face consequences. Now that I've awakened the Byakugan first, it shouldn't be too hard to return the favor to him soon. We're both from the main branch, so finding him and doing to him what he did to me shouldn't be an issue, right, sensei? Hikari's words carried a tinge of anger that was genuine. Despite his decision to approach life with maximum rationality to achieve his goals with the highest probability, Hikari wasn't devoid of emotions. His combined life was marked by real anger, stemming from the challenges he had faced so far in both of his combined memories. The awakening of the Byakugan and the realization of his potential overall had bolstered his self-esteem, instilling in him a newfound sense of pride. Just as he began to envision a future where he stood at the pinnacle, the memory of being overpowered by what he considered a cannon fodder 5-year-old child was a stark reminder of his vulnerability. This incident now ignited real anger in him, fueling his determination to settle scores as soon as he could. However, despite his anger, Hikari was deliberate in how he spoke to Takumai, emphasizing his identity as a member of the main branch, hoping to signal a shift in the right direction. His parents, during later parts of their short lives, had basically almost shown disdain for the main branch, driven by their ideological moral beliefs, acting as if they were part of the side branch themselves. So, by aligning himself more openly with the main branch in rhetoric, Hikari aimed to improve his standing in the eyes of the other elders, hopefully quickly reclaim the power and status rightfully his, and integrate more seamlessly within the main branch, enjoying the privileges that came with his position. But, Hikari was well aware of the challenge ahead. The actions and beliefs of his lineage had left a lasting impression on the clan, one that wouldn't be easily erased. It would take time. Chapter 5, Getting the Cursed Seal. Use command. Of course, you are both main branch members of equal status. It's fine to respond in kind, or even a bit more, but don't overdo it. And as your teacher, I need to remind you not to get the wrong impression now that you've awakened the Byakugan. Indeed, the other boy hasn't activated his yet, so he hasn't started learning the Gentle Fist Taijutsu too. But you should know he began his training 2 years ago with a professional teacher and has been strengthening his body with physical exercises all this time, unlike you. He's likely learned to perfectly create chakra, and perform various chakra control exercises, which would make his chakra pathways more robust and his overall chakra capacity larger than yours, hence also making his body stronger than yours on average. Yes, you have a chance to win, but it's not guaranteed, even with the Byakugan. In my opinion, you shouldn't rush into confrontation. It would be wiser to train with me for a little while before seeking him out. However, the choice is yours to make. While delivering this advice, Takumai maintained a composed and authoritative demeanor, but Hikari could understand from his words that, at least during this moment, he was sincere to him, as his student now, and spoke from the position of his own best interest in mind. And he was indeed correct. Children from Konoha's major clans typically began their shinobi training at the age of 3 nowadays, under more personalized and specialized guidance, unlike in the Ninja Academy, especially during periods of heightened tensions and ongoing wars. This early start wasn't necessarily because they were expected to fight in wars immediately, but as a precautionary measure to prepare them for any eventuality. Similarly, the entrance age for the Ninja Academy had been lowered to an unprecedented 4 years old, reflecting the urgent need for preparedness. This meant that children from clans, who often had access to more advanced knowledge and resources, needed to start their training by the age of 3. This was also why Takumai had been emphasizing the importance of beginning Hikari's training now that he had reached this critical age. By the time these clan children entered the Ninja Academy, if they chose to attend at all, they were already well versed in shinobi theory and had significantly stronger bodies and a better understanding of how to control their chakra, among other skills. And could probably knock out a civilian adult with one punch. This disparity highlighted a stark reality: the world of shinobi was not fair, especially for civilians. I'm grateful for your advice, sensei. But don't worry, as soon as I opened these eyes I noticed how much clearer and faster I can see things. Even if he's physically stronger, I can probably anticipate and react to his moves much quicker than he can to mine. Plus, I plan to catch him by surprise. If he doesn't know about my Byakugan, I'll let him get close, then suddenly activate it and strike first with a sneak attack, taking the initiative so he won't have a chance to fight back or regain his footing. With the element of surprise and my enhanced vision, I'm confident in my victory. Hikari shared, speaking earnestly this time, revealing his thoughts without reservation. He saw no need to hold back his strategic thinking over a relatively minor matter, confident in the advantages his newly awakened Byakugan provided him. And it's not like I can't create new or control chakra to run through my body now. After all, by activating the Byakugan, one automatically learns to create new and maneuver old chakra through the body to the eyes. It is the requirement for awakening it in the first place, I think, or else, it wouldn't have been possible. I observed this happening to myself, firsthand. And those same instinctive processes can now be applied by me also to the rest of my body, or the entire chakra pathway system, by a certain degree, as soon as I recover. Hikari continued, elaborating on his capabilities. His explanation underscored a key aspect of awakening the Byakugan: it wasn't just about the enhanced vision or the ability to see chakra networks, but it also fundamentally improved his chakra control. That was the Kekii Genkai. Every human possessed chakra, continuously generated by their bodies and circulating through their chakra pathway system. Yet, this was just a fraction of the potential chakra an individual could harness. Shinobi learned to create additional chakra by consciously combining their physical and spiritual energies, together known as stamina. Physical energy came from the body's trillions of cells, while spiritual energy stemmed from the mind's will and experiences. This process of converting stamina into chakra involved unconsciously swirling these energies together. The direction of this swirling, clockwise or counterclockwise, varied from person to person. Attempting to swirl in the opposite direction could disrupt chakra formation. However, by consciously controlling this swirling in the right direction and focusing on its speed, ninjas could enhance their chakra creation rate. For those without the Byakugan Kekii Genkai, generating this additional chakra was significantly more challenging to master. Yet, Hikari felt confident in his ability to do so with ease, thanks to the Byakugan. And also what he wanted to didn't require intricate chakra control for complex ninjutsu, it was a more fundamental task. He simply wanted to create more chakra within his chakra pathway system first, so there was no need for more sophisticated chakra control skills, focusing instead on harnessing and expanding his chakra reserves for the beating ahead. Like that, the conversation between Hikari and Takumai continued for a few more minutes, focusing on similar topics. Takumai expressed his surprise at Hikari's advanced knowledge, acknowledging the depth of understanding Hikari had already achieved at such a young age. However, the dialogue suddenly took another unexpected turn when Takumai, maintaining his typical unreadable poker face, posed a new question directly to Hikari. "Hikari-kun, I have to ask you something else too. What is your opinion on the side branch family of our clan?" "So, this is it. Is this the main test question?" Hikari pondered immediately after Takumai's question hit the air. He knew that this was more than just a casual inquiry, it was the most critical moment of this entire hidden examination that happened to him today, and it wasn't just from Takumai but from the perspective of the entire Elder Council, or also called the Hyuga Council, the most powerful governing body of the entire clan against which not even the Patriarch can act on certain matters. It was composed of the Patriarch of the Hyuga clan in addition to the elders. Now that he had awakened his Byakugan so early and demonstrated significant potential, the clan's higher UPS were undoubtedly keen to decide whether he carried what they might consider the curse of his parents' ideologies. And that would also determine his destiny. A wrong answer could very well lead him to meet the same end as his parents eventually. Even possibly earlier than them due to the threat in their eyes and the entire main branch, that he would be in that case due to his talent. The thought made him shudder internally. But, if I manage to give the right answer instead, then this could be the moment that begins to change how they see me, and my entire fate, by possibly improving my status in the eyes of the council, meaning the entire clan, right away. So, I need to handle this very carefully. I currently have no special thoughts about them, sensei. The branch family is simply responsible for protecting our main family and the secrets of the Byakugan, while we, the main family, are responsible for developing and keeping the entire clan prosperous. Hikari swiftly replied, his tone sincere and straightforward, devoid of any emotional fluctuations. His response was delivered as if reciting a well-known fact, one that had been deeply ingrained in his mind and solidified over time. Takumai, however, just nodded plainly in response to Hikari's answer, without any other reaction, and then began to speak. "If that is the case, then you should finally accept this command of our Hyuga main family's Juinjutsu Cursed Seal technique. Inside there are instructions on how to use it in the future if the need arises, along with guidelines on when and where it's appropriate to use it. Read and remember everything carefully." As he spoke, Takumai suddenly pulled out an ancient-looking scroll from his traditional clothing, his tone becoming more stern than Hikari had ever heard from him before. "Remember, you just need to learn this simple seal, it's a very easy process. I expect you to return this scroll to me tomorrow. Copying this information anywhere else is strictly forbidden." Hikari couldn't help but feel a twinge of disappointment, questioning, does he not trust me even a little, despite my earlier responses, but then he reconsidered, realizing, no, it's more likely that information about the cursed seal is so taboo and sensitive that even a mere command to activate it, along with basic guidelines, are guarded this fiercely. I can't even imagine how high the level of secrecy surrounding the creation, nature, and application of the technique itself must be. Then, upon observing Hikari's earnest expression and hearing his words of compliance, Takumai's demeanor shifted slightly, his tone becoming warmer again. "I will send some attendants to bring you those materials I promised earlier. Along with that, I'll include some general theoretical shinobi knowledge materials for you to start building a good foundation, as well as some of my personal notes on various subjects. There is also going to be a protocol I will write later about your physical and chakra training. There will also be books related to the development of Hyuga clan shinobi specifically. And if you have any other requests or questions about these materials or anything else, you can inform any servant in this mansion. They will notify me, and I will come as soon as possible. Also, when do you want for us to officially start your training in the Gentle Fist Taijutsu? Thank you for such immense help, sensei. However, I'm really sorry to ask for more. But could you also arrange for them to send some simple historical books about our clan to me later alongside those other things? After awakening the mystical power of the Byakugan, I've suddenly become very interested in this. We can start training in the Gentle Fist tomorrow at the same time in the afternoon if you are available. I have some business to take care of earlier, as we discussed, Hikari said, maintaining a well-mannered and humble tone while inwardly calculating in a rational manner. Since I can't openly ask for sensitive information, these basic harmless history books might be the best indirect route for me to learn more about the social, political, economic, and other aspects concerning our clan's internal dynamics, its position within Konoha, and the broader situation involving other clans, villages, and the rest of the world. It's crucial for me to understand this world I've found myself in as thoroughly and quickly as possible, to develop informed plans, and not be left in the dark. After all, the real world is significantly different from the simplified, colorful depiction in the comic books of my past life on Earth. However, this time, it seemingly actually took Takumi a few seconds to respond back. Of course, Hikari-kun, it is good to have such an attitude toward our clan's great history. I will arrange for those to be sent as well. Well then, if that's all, I'll see you tomorrow afternoon. And good luck with your little business, I suppose. Takumi said before finally stepping out of Hikari's large Japanese-style room, filled with light, windows, and sliding doors, heading into the green, lush courtyard outside. Meanwhile, even after Takumi had left Hikari's room and was out of sight, Hikari maintained a humble and childlike expression on his face. Yet, as soon as he was alone, his demeanor subtly shifted, a deep indifference shining in his white eyes. He finally thought to himself with a touch of irony, what a shame, I have to basically beg for things that should have been readily available to me with a flick of my finger, simply because of my status as the sole heir of a distinguished line of elders if my accursed parents were alive. It seems I can't even dream of accessing the main house's advanced techniques or detailed and more secretive Kekkei Genkai information for now. Even getting my hands on the most basic historical texts about our clan has become a struggle. I don't expect to receive any high-level knowledge in the areas he mentioned either. But, it doesn't matter. Something is better than nothing. And with the newfound intelligence and other circumstances I've been granted in this life, I'm confident I can piece together the puzzles from just a few general clues. My ignorant and brainless parents are largely to blame for the situation I find myself in. However, the Elder Council and the rest of the main branch aren't innocent in my eyes, either. The entire clan has shown little to no kindness towards this original body honestly. Even some members of the side house, according to my estimate, may have also played a role in my parents' demise, due to envy, hatred, or something like that, despite them being the only people in the entire main house basically good to them in every way possible and not treating them like slaves. I must ultimately rely solely on myself in this world from now. And what about Konoha and the great third Hokage my parents held in such high regard? What have they done now that I find myself under constant surveillance here, living as if in a prison? Nothing. In fact, if I hadn't awakened the Byakugan, as time passed and things quieted down, I likely would have met a fate similar to my parents in some form or another. Yet, the elders, the patriarch, the main branch, who previously planned such fate for me, and the entire clan could still prove to be of great use to me, offering numerous benefits. Besides, it's not like I have any other option now. Even if I hypothetically wanted to seek refuge in Konoha, it's clear that they abandoned me despite my parents' great merits and assistance to them. I would probably die secretly in the hands of elders before even taking a first step in that direction, Hikari reflected, with a calculated coldness to his thoughts. Hikari understood that ultimately, the situation he found himself in was a political matter internal to the Hyuga clan. His parents, in their naivety, likely failed to grasp this, believing that Konoha, and specifically the third Hokage, would protect them despite their actions deeply offending the Hyuga clan's higher ups or even if their potential role as informants was discovered. In reality, they were possibly seen as nothing more than useful idiots by Hiruzen Sarutobi and his advisors. Or perhaps they were aware but chose to stand by their beliefs, willing to face the consequences. Hikari, with his rational mindset, found it difficult to comprehend such indoctrinated and brainwashed behavior, even in individuals as closely related to him as his biological parents. Despite their talents, he viewed their actions as misguided and foolish. The fact that among the 9 elder lines of the Hyuga clan, only his parents' line acted in such a deranged manner said a lot about the situation. It raised the question, were they the only enlightened ones, and the rest misguided, or was it the other way around? It was clear. The weekly Elder Council meeting is scheduled for the day after tomorrow, so ideally, I need to deal with that kid early tomorrow morning, and then handle that other matter as well at that time, all to ensure I leave the best possible impression for the upcoming discussion. It's crucial to showcase not just my potential as a talented individual but also the right mindset. Tomorrow is going to be quite an interesting day, Hikari planned thoughtfully, not giving up. Chapter 6, A Young Hyuga's Step to Revenge. After spending all of yesterday since the afternoon diving into the heaps of materials that Takumi promised, including books on improving strength, and ninja skills, and the history texts he asked for, Hikari had a long sleep to properly absorb all that new information into his long-term memory storage inside of his brain's hippocampus where those were stored. That was something he knew from his past life. So, he didn't read those books and stayed up all night like some might have predicted on his first day of transmigration. He also knew that he needed to be at his best vitality and physical state today for the incoming clash and the late official beginning of his training. That was why he slept all the way in like in his previous life. He had also sent all the side branch servants away the day before, asking them not to bother him with tasks like helping him dress, wash up, clean his room, make his bed, and other similar things, because of his status, in the future. After a while, they complied with it. That's why they just left the breakfast outside of his room just now and notified him of it. There was no other way. It was not because he cared about those things, and thought that there was anything wrong with that tradition, but simply because he didn't prefer anyone breaking his focus, his flow state with external stimuli to his brain, every once in a while, after he started learning something so seriously and absorbing such large chunks of new knowledge. And knowledge was power in this world like it also was in Hikari's past life. This morning, after organizing the various books and scrolls scattered all throughout his room unwittingly yesterday toward his small personal study space and sitting area, washing his face, looking in a decorated mirror many times larger than his current frame was, and touching his childish face, Hikari felt an odd sense about being in this new young physique. When Hikari looked at his reflection, he could see how he stood out from the typical Hyuga. His hair was not only short and messy, which was uncommon, but its color was also notably different. Instead of the usual black, his hair was a unique dark blue, a rarity within the Hyuga clan and the only other hair color present in some members, though still extremely rare. This made his appearance very distinctive. Without his characteristic white eyes and the clan's traditional clothing, one might not even peg him as a Hyuga clan member at all at first. He got those rare features from his parents too, including harmonious and symmetrical facial lines that were already visible even though he was just 3 years old, hinting he'd grow up to be quite handsome. That must have been something he inherited from his parents as well. Besides his unique looks, he dressed in blue-themed robes with a heir outfit, standard for the Hyuga clan, before he quickly stepped outside of his room toward the exit of this estate. Within the vast Hyuga clan compound, the fifth elder's estate was a place of pride and tradition, covering 4 acres. It was located in the innermost circle of the entire compound. The living quarters were spread out, giving each of the main branch members potentially living inside and their servants their own space. The main branch members had large bedrooms with areas to study, while the servants had simpler, yet comfortable rooms. Additionally, even though no other main branch members other than Takumi and Hikari currently used all of those rooms, the entire estate still looked quite busy due to servants. Those other main rooms were always taken care of even if no one lived inside of them. A key part of the estate was its dojo, a large indoor space for training, and the outdoor grounds, designed for practicing the Hyuga's unique fighting techniques among the trees. The elder's office, located at the heart of the estate, was the most important spot. It doubled as the fifth elder's home and the central hub for the clan's administrative and commercial activities his lineage was always in charge of. Staffed by side branch personnel, this office was equipped with all the necessary materials and talent to oversee the various responsibilities the fifth elder's lineage managed on the highest level. Although this was the main center, there were additional buildings within the Hyuga clan compound and throughout Konoha dedicated to specific villages and business-related tasks. There was also a workshop and armory for weapons, traditional bathhouses for relaxing, which were of course divided between the areas for the main branch and the side branch, and storage rooms filled with supplies and food, near the kitchen, making sure the estate nearly always had everything it needed to function. The main hall, which Hikari presently exited, after leaving his room previously as well, was a big room used for everything from family dinners to important meetings, surrounded by portraits and scrolls of the Hyuga's history and previous fifth lineage's leaders of the past. As you entered or exited the estate, a beautifully kept path led from the estate's main gate to the main hall and vice versa. Hikari was now heading for the exit using this exact decorated pathway. It was a pathway decorated with lush and beautiful botanical forms. At the very core of the Hyuga clan compound lay the epicenter of its power, home to the main branch families. Encircling the grand estate of the patriarch, which stood as the largest single structure in the clan, were the residences of the 9 elders. These estates formed a protective ring around the Patriarch's building, symbolizing the unity and strength of the clan's leadership. The Patriarch's estate was more than just a residential space, it was a place of significant importance to the entire clan. Here, the Patriarch, his family, and their servants resided, but it also served as the venue for the most crucial Elder Council meetings. These gatherings, essential for making decisions that shaped the future of the Hyuga clan, took place within its walls. In addition to hosting meetings, the Patriarch's estate housed various administrative offices, providing a space for entire high-level planning, collaboration, and the management of clan affairs. And this time, Hikari didn't head towards the Patriarch's building at the center of the compound, nor did he venture into the more populous areas where the side branch primarily resided, outside the ring of elder estates. Instead, he took a unique path known only to main branch members, a route that wove between semi-covered and open spaces, alongside various utility structures, connecting the 9 elder estates. His destination was the 7th elder's estate, home to the individual who was currently his target. Since this route wasn't very long and hard to navigate, he encountered no need to ask for directions or take a long detour. In Hikari's estimation, each elder's estate alone, including that of the 7th elder, which he was visiting, covered 2 to 5 acres, ensuring sufficient space for both personal and clan activities, and the entire Hyuga clan's compound encompassed 100,000 to 150,000 square meters, providing enough room for the clan's residences, training areas, and beautiful gardens, among other buildings. As Hikari made his way along the path to the 7th elder's estate, he encountered numerous members of both the side and main branches. They were easily discernible due to the simple fact that main branch members usually proudly showcased their clean foreheads, whereas every branch member had it covered in some way, which was an unwritten rule in the clan. The sight of a 3-year-old child walking alone in this area was very unusual. Side branch members, upon noticing him, simply passed by without acknowledgement. They were only required to formally greet main branch members directly responsible for them, which included descendants from one of the 9 elder lineages, as well as the Patriarch and his family. Therefore, they had no obligation to greet Hikari, but their lack of greeting didn't translate to disrespect or disdain due to Hikari's family reputation. They didn't have that courage, as he was still a legitimate main branch member, at least they couldn't disrespect him in any way openly. As for what they talked about him behind closed doors, it wasn't Hikari's problem. On the other hand, main branch members, of all ages, were more open with their thoughts. They didn't hesitate to give Hikari cold looks and even sneer and gossip among themselves. Hikari heard bits of what they were saying and saw them pointing their fingers at him. The looks on their faces and how they talked made it clear they were not saying anything nice. As Hikari continued on his path, a few of the main branch members went beyond just cold looks and whispers, they openly hurled insults at him. These harsh words, directed at a young child, were a stark demonstration of the disdain they held for his family's reputation. And most other older members of the main branch treated Hikari harshly in that exact way. However, one individual, Hiruto, a 5-year-old who was the closest to Hikari in age within the main branch, took things a step further by becoming increasingly physical with him too. Given Hikari's age difference from the rest of the main branch, Hiruto was the only one who resorted to such behavior because he was closest to him in the age of the entire main family. Initially, his bullying was a mix of verbal insults and minor physical aggression during their occasional encounters, asserting his dominance by claiming they were just training and sparring together. This was backed by 2 years of training under professional guidance, which Hiruto used to physically overpower Hikari. However, the situation escalated 3 days before Hikari's transmigration. Returning from the cemetery on the monthly anniversary of his parents' passing, Hikari encountered Hiruto and his entourage of side branch members. Along with the usual taunts, Hiruto insulted Hikari's deceased parents. Overwhelmed by emotion and anger, Hikari responded for the first time, standing up to the verbal abuse. This reaction infuriated Hiruto, who then physically assaulted Hikari, causing him significant physical and emotional pain. Hikari's new consciousness still remembered how endlessly sad, angry, alone, rejected, and hopeless he was feeling at that time. This incident, marking a peak in Hikari's suffering, created the conditions that facilitated the soul transmigration, bringing a new consciousness into Hikari's body. The attack was a huge shock to him, hurting both his mind and body. This was one of the main reasons why Hikari wanted to get revenge quickly. Even though the idea of taking revenge on a 5-year-old kid might not seem right, especially since he was an adult in his past life, the current Hikari didn't see it that way. He didn't care about age or any other status. In his mind, anyone who crossed him in this life would have to face the consequences and pay, whether they were a kid or not. He also understood that kids in this ninja world were much more advanced than in his previous world, both in how innately smart they were and in what they had experienced and learned. So, he didn't believe that Hiruto was too young to understand what he was doing. Hikari mulled over these thoughts as he finally reached the entrance of the 7th estate. Chapter 7, Getting Revenge and Making a Splash. However, before the side branch guards stationed at the entrance could address him, Hikari, now standing in the expansive open area in front of the 7th estate, raised his voice. Despite his young age, his call was unexpectedly strong, bolstered by the chakra he had consciously circulated through his body at a high frequency. I, Hikari Hyuga, insult the 7th lineage itself and every member of it, right here. If you don't want others to consider you as cowards and weaklings in the future, let the youngest of you Hiruto Hyuga come out to meet me in a battle right now and disprove my words. Or I will come here every day from now on or hunt him down like a rabbit as soon as he leaves this compound in the future. So, Hiruto, you might as well come out right now and save face and show everyone that you are not afraid of me, Hikari declared, fully aware of the impact of his words. In the Hyuga clan, where honor and reputation were held in the highest regard, such a direct challenge, especially one that called into question the courage and strength of a lineage, was almost guaranteed to provoke a response. By invoking the clan's deep-seated values and publicly challenging Hiruto, Hikari was leveraging the Hyuga's own traditions against them to force Hiruto's hand. Feeling that his initial proclamation might not have been enough to stir the desired reaction, Hikari repeated his challenge several more times. His persistent cries finally spurred the previously motionless and shocked side branch guards into action, sending one of them into the estate, presumably to relay the message. In the meantime, a growing crowd of main branch members began to converge on the entrance courtyard of the 7th estate. Drawn by the commotion, they watched with amusement and ridicule, gossiping amongst themselves and throwing mocking and insulting remarks in Hikari's direction. Yet, Hikari stood stoically amid the verbal onslaught, absorbing their scorn in silence as he awaited Hiruto's appearance. After a few tense minutes, Hikari's gaze finally fell upon a child approaching with a distinctly arrogant expression and a clean forehead, a clear indication of his status as a main branch member. This was Hiruto, leading a group that was an unusual sight. Older children and teenagers from the side branch trailed behind him. The composition of the group, with Hiruto at the forefront and his entourage of younger, side branch members following, gave a funny feel. Hikari, preferring to take the initiative, didn't wait for Hiruto to speak. Before Hiruto could open his little arrogant mouth, Hikari seized the opportunity to launch the first verbal salvo. Look, everyone, it's the mighty Hiruto, hiding behind his lackeys like a scared little rabbit and taking minutes to respond. It's useless, no one can help you today. So, come and show us how brave you are when you're not ambushing someone when they are in their most vulnerable state. Try doing it again right now, you idiot, Hikari called out, his voice laced with biting sarcasm that drew the attention of everyone present, his face full of disdain. Hiruto's face, initially marked by arrogance, shifted quickly to surprise, shock, and then anger at Hikari's bold insult. His little face suddenly turned extremely red, as this was the first time in his life he got to experience such words coming his way, and from someone he deemed trash before. Not to mention that Hikari's personality was completely opposite in the past. Hiruto had always viewed Hikari as a submissive weirdo, an outcast from a lineage already deemed abnormal within the clan. Therefore, it took him a few seconds just to process this. The unexpected attack caught him off guard, silencing him momentarily as he processed the challenge laid bare before his followers and the growing crowd. Regaining his composure, Hiruto's angry expression hardened, and he stepped forward, with his own retort ready. Am I seeing things, or did that weakling Hikari actually lose his mind after I beat him down last time? No matter the reason, you're about to get beaten again today, and then every day after, until you come crawling here to this residence and bow for an entire day as your apology. Those words of yours aren't something you can just throw around because you've gone a bit mad. Hiruto scowled, rolling up his sleeves in preparation for a fight, and signaled his followers to stay back as he advanced toward Hikari with quick, determined steps. His eyes were fierce and unforgiving, showing his intent to not just confront Hikari but to punish him very cruelly. Eat this fist, weirdo, Hiruto shouted, his anger intensifying as he noticed Hikari's unmoved, stoic, and calculating demeanor. This only fueled his determination to teach Hikari a lesson. So, with every step closer, his speed increased, driven by a mix of anger and a desire to assert his dominance. Finally closing the distance with remarkable speed, Hiruto launched a quick punch toward Hikari, aiming to connect with force and make his point through action. This is what I've been waiting for, Hikari thought, seizing the moment. Just as Hiruto and the onlookers watched in disbelief, Hikari fluidly raised one hand, forming a single hand seal he had learned just the day before to activate his Byakugan more effectively. The veins around his eyes bulged prominently, signaling the activation of his dojutsu. To Hikari, with his Byakugan now fully active, Hiruto's incoming fist, his facial expression, and his body's movement all seemed to slow down dramatically. Recognizing this as his prime opportunity, especially with Hiruto completely off guard and unable to adjust his stance, Hikari surged his chakra throughout his body with the help of his Byakugan inner vision of his internal chakra pathway system. He then swiftly moved to sidestep Hiruto's punch, and before Hiruto could react, Hikari counterattacked, landing a series of quick punches on Hiruto's jaw and face, and knocking him to the ground. Hiruto, caught completely by surprise and feeling as if he had stepped into a different world, struggled to stand up again, but Hikari, with the predictive capabilities of the Byakugan, anticipated each attempt and countered effectively, now kicking him in the stomach. It was only then that Hiruto started to successfully mobilize his own chakra in an attempt to defend himself, after realizing his situation and the gravity of it, to fight back against Hikari's relentless assault. However, by that point, Hikari already managed to pin himself down on top of him and realizing that he would lose if Hiruto managed to gather chakra successfully, began to choke him hard, leading to him passing out completely under the accompanying gurgling sound. Is that Byakugan? Oh my god! Am I dreaming? Someone please wake up! At only 3 years old. That damned lineage is truly blessed for some reason. What is going to happen next? The spectators, a mix of main and side branch members who had gathered to witness the confrontation, were taken aback by the sudden turn of events. Murmurs and gasps filled the air as they saw Hiruto, whom many had expected to dominate the fight due to his earlier training and aggressive approach, quickly overpowered and rendered unconscious by Hikari. Whispers spread through the crowd, with some expressing shock at Hikari's unexpected prowess and others speculating about the implications of his victory. A few of the spectators, particularly those from the main branch, appeared unsettled, their faces betraying a mix of concern and re-evaluation of Hikari's place within the clan hierarchy. Hiruto-sama, however, at this time, Hiruto's entourage of side branch members, who had been watching from a distance, finally realized the gravity of what had occurred. They rushed to assist the young Hiruto, who lay on the ground, unconscious, his face red and swollen, clothes dirted from the scuffle. However, upon witnessing the side branch members rush to Hiruto's aid, Hikari couldn't help but secretly grin. Then, raising his voice for all to hear, he declared. Bold of you, preparing to attack a main branch member in such numbers and with those fierce looks in your eyes. There's no helping it, to defend myself, I must activate the cursed seal on all of you. With that, Hikari performed another one-handed seal, and under the shocked gazes of everyone present, he invoked the cursed seal command. More than a dozen side branch attendants suddenly collapsed to the ground, yelling in agony and clutching their foreheads. Hikari was acutely aware that activating the cursed seal command on side branch members directly serving under different main branch lineages, other than your own, was strictly forbidden, except under exceptional circumstances. Thus, he felt compelled to add those words while doing it. Didn't you always secretly laugh at me while Hiruto bullied me while hiding behind him? And I'm not one to forget grudges or leave a payback unsettled, Hikari mused silently, and didn't my parents always treat your kind with kindness? Yet, how did you repay them? Out of fear of threats from the main branch or envy, you still turned against them, leading to their downfall. It seems being good in this world gets you nowhere. The more you stray from your true status, the more you will pay in the end, like my parents. The main and side branches are simply incompatible, contrary to what my parents believed, and they paid for it with their lives, he reflected as he watched them squirming in pain on the ground. This act was not solely about retribution. Hikari recognized the need to demonstrate to the 9 elders and the rest of the main branch that he had fully embraced his role within the main branch, distancing himself from his parents' well-known abnormal ideologies and naivety. Activating the cursed seals was a clear message of his alignment with main branch values and a departure from his parents' ideals. It was a calculated step to show he had changed, that he was not like his parents. It was another move in climbing the hierarchy of this clan. His actions were now guided by sheer cold logic, the pain inflicted on others in moments like this held no sway over him. Hikari's only focus had shifted to climbing to the top of the food chain in this troubled world. and the prospect of others growing suspicious due to the change in his personality, observable from his actions today, also wasn't a very significant concern for Hikari. He rationalized that anyone would transform the series of events he had endured in recent months, culminating in the traumatic incident 3 days prior and the awakening of his Byakugan yesterday afternoon. It was natural for his previously non-confrontational, naive, and accommodating demeanor to evolve into a more assertive, confident, and self-centered personality given his series of experiences. This shift would probably be a reasonable response to the trials he faced in the eyes of others, especially main branch members who were always very proud like that by default. Moreover, this Hikari in Konohagakure, while just embodying the soul richer with another one from a totally different planet and dimension, now retained the same original memories and the brain as the spiritual of this body also carried before that partial transmigration. Consequently, all the subtle, unconscious, micro-habits and behaviors that could make someone suspect something different in him remained unchanged for that exact reason. These consistencies helped maintain the continuity of his identity, ensuring that any alterations in his personality could be attributed to his recent experiences rather than arousing suspicions of a deeper, more mysterious change within him like transmigration. However, soon, Hikari's attention was abruptly drawn to another figure, a slightly older boy fiercely charging towards him, his expression seething with anger while he roared loudly. Chapter 8, A Young Genius Defies the Odds. However, Hirudo Hyuga, the 7-year-old brother of Hiruto Hyuga and the third youngest member of the entire main branch after Hikari and Hirudo themselves, as well as another grandson of the 7th elder, didn't give Hikari a moment to react before he swung his fist in extreme anger as soon as he rushed to the scene from the 7th estate in front of him. Hirudo had rushed over upon seeing his younger brother lying defeated, in that state, on the ground. As he launched his attack, he also hurled insults at Hikari, seemingly undeterred by the sight of Hikari's activated Byakugan. Caught off guard by Hirudo's sudden aggression, Hikari was forced to halt the activation of the cursed seal command he had been using on the other branch members who were still writhing in pain on the ground, saliva dripping from their mouths. Inadvertently, Hirudo's intervention potentially saved quite a lot of their brain cells from more severe damage. Damn, is this what 4 years of training amounts to compared to just 2, Hikari thought, a hint of desperation creeping into his mind as he narrowly evaded Hirudo's aggressive onslaught. Despite his ability to still successfully see, and even predict Hirudo's moves with his Byakugan, Hikari found his body frustratingly unable to keep pace, the 4-year age gap between them translating into a significant disadvantage in terms of physical capabilities. Fortunately, his rage is clouding his judgment, otherwise, that first punch might have been the end of me even without him having the Byakugan or the gentle fist techniques, Hikari acknowledged. As the initial wave of Hirudo's anger began to subside slightly, his attacks became more calculated and harder for Hikari to evade. Hikari realized that even if he managed to keep dodging, it was only a matter of time before he either made a mistake or exhausted his chakra and physical stamina, given the clear disparities between them. Hirudo's superior training and physical prowess allowed him to adapt quickly, narrowing the space between them with swift, targeted strikes designed to corner Hikari and limit his mobility. Hirudo skillfully mixed feints and direct attacks, aiming to deplete Hikari's stamina and force errors. Meanwhile, Hikari's attempts to counter were hampered by his need to constantly evade, making it difficult to launch an effective offensive. However, struggling to keep up, Hikari was suddenly taken by surprise when a kick finally landed squarely on his stomach, causing him to instinctively curl up and lean forward. Then the immediate threat of another kick aimed at his head filled him with dread. This could really mess up my entire skull. No, it could be even worse than that. He doesn't look like he would stop after just that one kick. So, this could even be the complete end for me. No. I can't let it end like this. I'm meant to live a life full of control and power this time around. I can't die here, Hikari thought in a panic, his life seemingly flashing before his eyes in a moment of despair, reminiscent of that comatose state he had experienced before. As Hirudo's foot inched ever closer to his face, Hikari's extreme unwillingness to accept his fate, combined with fear and a desperate attempt to mobilize every last bit of his body's potential for evasion, triggered an extraordinary response within him. Suddenly, a powerful burst of chakra surged through Hikari's body. Typically, the body and mind impose limits on the amount of chakra one can produce at a time, a safeguard against the fatal risks of chakra depletion. To surpass these limits and access greater chakra reserves, a shinobi must reach a state of resolve, a breakthrough that allows for controlled expansion of one's chakra potential ever since that point in life onward. Miraculously, Hikari found himself achieving this state of resolve in the face of imminent danger. At merely 3 years old, he managed something that many civilian genin and even clan heirs at the age of attending the ninja academy struggle to accomplish. And in that critical moment, the newfound surge of chakra coursing through his pathways gave Hikari the speed and agility he needed to evade the impending kick. Capitalizing on this newfound momentum and opportunity, his Byakugan quickly locked onto a vulnerability in Haruto's stance, his balance resting entirely on one leg. With precision, Hikari then delivered a powerful kick to Haruto's supporting leg, throwing him off balance. Swiftly, like a predator, Hikari moved behind Haruto, securing him in a guillotine choke hold right away. Whispering with a menacing tone, Hikari taunted, "So, you'll share the same fate as your pathetic brother Haruto, choked out by my hand. And let this be a warning, there will be many more blackouts like this for you and your stupid brother in the future. Be prepared. Now, goodbye, sleep well, you insignificant cannon fodder trash. If only you had awakened your Byakugan like me at this old of age, then perhaps things could have been different. But you're no genius like me, far from it in fact, you're just another unimportant ant-like existence." These chilling words were the last thing Haruto heard as his consciousness faded, his attempts to breathe growing futile, his throat producing all kinds of painful and indistinguishable sounds mirroring the distress his brother had experienced moments prior. After tossing Haruto's unconscious body aside next, Hikari quickly rose back to his feet, his breath heavy, however, this time. The exertion from activating his resolve and engaging in back-to-back confrontations with two opponents older than his mere 3 years, in succession, had pushed him to the brink of his limits. Lucky thing for me, this waste is far from what one might call a genius, to put it politely. Failing to awaken the Byakugan by the age of 7, especially without the cursed seal to inhibit dojutsu potential, and despite having access to the inherent bloodline advantages accumulated through the main branch's genetic evolution over generations, can only be seen as very underwhelming at best. But still, both victories were mainly due to the element of surprise. Had they not underestimated me or been aware of my entire potential capabilities, the outcome would have been my defeat with full certainty. It's clear I need to become stronger quickly to ensure future victories, now that they're aware of what I'm capable of at this stage, Hikari reflected, his gaze still calm, sharp, and analytical now. It was not like Hikari didn't prepare for hypothetically facing the 7-year-old brother, in question, as well this time around. He had also strategically considered that possibility too. Or else, he would have obviously waited to train with Takumai for some time before doing this. However, aware of the unique connection between spiritual energy and brain function that existed in this world, Hikari, who had effectively fused two souls, knew that he possessed enhanced cognitive abilities currently in this world. This fusion likely improved his memory, focus, intelligence, and even most notably the enhanced motor and chakra control, the most pivotal elements for awakening the resolve. Hikari yesterday hypothesized that this advanced level of innate chakra and motor function control, alongside his Byakugan, would increase his likelihood of being able to achieve this breakthrough under pressure, almost giving him something akin to an artificial help, allowing him to leapfrog many other shinobi, and it was a theory he was willing to test in this battle if necessary. And as events unfolded just now, Hikari's calculated risk paid off. Not only did he exact his revenge, but he also managed to awaken his resolve much earlier than most could dream of, all under the watchful eyes of the clan. It was a very good reward for this kind of risk percentage, making the overall risk-to-return ratio for this kind of chess move quite profitable. This achievement was very timely for him now, with the Elder Council meeting, that would determine his fate, happening tomorrow. Awakening both the Byakugan and resolve at 3 years old was quite something in his opinion. That level of talent increased the likelihood of them not only giving up on dealing with him nearly entirely forever but also probably cultivating him instead and giving him many resources back. My grandsons. However, just as Hikari was about to sigh in relief and turn back, a loud yell echoed from the depths of the Hyuga clan compound, from the other side, growing louder and more resonant as it approached his position. A figure soon emerged, old yet exuding quickness and power. Chapter 9, The Confrontation Against a Lineage. However, at the same time, as those shouts rang, another presence suddenly made itself known, approaching the scene quietly from a different direction. Like a shadow materializing near Hikari, this figure showed no surprise at the sight before him. 2 defeated youths and several side branch members collapsed on the ground, completely drained. This was Takumai, the 5th elder, and Hikari's appointed custodian. By the time the 7th elder reached the scene, his gaze fell upon his 2 grandsons lying on the ground, prompting a look of fierce displeasure and distortion on his face. Takumai, meanwhile, had positioned himself in front of Hikari. The main branch members, driven by curiosity, had congregated closer, their numbers swelling as the previous commotion unfolded as well. The crowd around them grew larger and more notable, with it becoming evident that these were not merely random passers-by. Many of the clan's strongest jonin had also arrived, drawn by the disturbance. It was clear from their focused expressions that they had been monitoring the fights from a distance using their Byakugan and had now joined the gathering to witness the aftermath. The revelation that a 3-year-old, untrained child had defeated a 7-year-old who had undergone 4 years of rigorous training sent shockwaves through the assembled crowd. While not everyone present was familiar with the concept of resolve, the sheer unlikelihood of the feat laid before them was enough to convince all that they had witnessed something extraordinary, perhaps even historic. Conversations about Hikari, previously full of ridicule and mockery, now buzzed with shock, wonder, and amazement. The crowd, composed of both main and side branch members, engaged in passionate discussions about Hikari's actions. Words of disbelief mingled with speculative theories on how such an unprecedented victory could have occurred, already marking a significant turn in the perception of Hikari's capabilities and potential within the clan. Fifth Elder, what is going on? Were you aware this was going to unfold? Is that why you've shown up now? What are you implying by your presence? Are you trying to shield this child? The seventh elder, having regained some of his composure after seeing his grandsons being attended to by following Hyuga Jonin who assured him they were okay, directed his questions and thinly veiled accusations at Takumai. I also got notified of what transpired here. This child dared to insult our entire lineage, and yes, while my grandsons may have been defeated fair and square, and he has no authority to discipline members of the side branch directly under my command. These actions alone grant me the right to discipline him. He stated confidently, but his demeanor calmed slightly as he addressed Takumai, who stood kind of protectively in front of Hikari. Although the seventh elder was inwardly astounded by the events and Hikari's evident talent, his resentment over the public humiliation of his grandsons overshadowed his shock. He clung to the dual grievances of the insult to his lineage and the unwarranted disciplining of side branch members as justifications for seeking retribution against Hikari, using these points as leverage in his argument with Takumai right away. Seventh Elder, first and foremost, regardless of his actions today, you alone don't have the authority to interfere in this child's related affairs. You know well that his matters are not for you to decide and judge unilaterally. Debating this with me here serves no purpose. If you have grievances, present them at the Elder Council tomorrow. In the meantime, I am responsible for him, and it is my decision that carries weight. I'll be taking him with me now, so I'd appreciate it if you didn't obstruct us or create unnecessary complications. Takumai stated, his tone both calm and assertive. His prime physical condition lent an additional layer of authority to his presence, contrasting with the seventh elder's age. So, you are going to oppose me, fifth elder? The seventh elder questioned, raising his eyebrows in a mix of surprise and challenge. No, are you planning to go against the entire council, seventh elder? Takumai retorted, refusing to be intimidated or give an inch. His voice was steady, signaling no compromise. A tense silence followed their exchange, a silent standoff where neither seemed willing to concede. The air was thick with unspoken threats and the heavy weight of clan politics. After a moment that stretched between them, laden with the potential for deeper conflict, the seventh elder sighed, signaling his reluctant surrender. Very well, fifth elder. Your point is taken. I will not overstep today. But make no mistake, this incident will not be overlooked. I expect a full discussion at the Elder Council tomorrow. Until then, I will hold my peace. But know this, the actions taken today will have consequences, he replied while fixing his gaze on Hikari, his tone laced with a mixture of resignation and warning. The seventh elder's careful choice of words and the intensity of his look toward Hikari suggested a deep-seated concern, yet it was ambiguous whether his admonition was directed solely at Hikari or if Takumai, too, was included in his cautionary statement. After delivering his warning, the seventh elder commanded his entourage to attend to his grandsons and the side branch members still lying on the ground, ensuring they were taken care of and brought back inside. He then turned his attention to the large crowd of both side and main branch members that had gathered, signaling that the spectacle had come to an end. The show is over, he announced firmly, so, I would appreciate it if everyone vacated the entrance courtyard of my property now. With that, he, along with his entourage, retreated inside, and the gates were closed behind them. After the seventh elder and his entourage retreated, Takumai turned to Hikari, we'll talk later. Let's head back to my estate now, he suggested, a hint of seriousness in his tone. Hikari simply nodded in response, still processing the aftermath of the confrontations. At the same time, the adrenaline rush slowly subsided and his entire body ached. He was keenly aware of his chakra levels. Thanks to his meticulous chakra control, he had successfully avoided nearing chakra exhaustion. As they walked away, Hikari cast a final glance at the closed gates of the 7th estate. Having one lineage against me is preferable to having the entire council and main branch against me like before. The events of today will now ripple through the clan, as soon as all those people leave, showcasing my potential to the fullest. He contemplated with a sense of calculated optimism, so, tomorrow's council meeting is unlikely to proceed as the 7th elder hopes. Far from being punished, this could very well officially mark the beginning of my rise. As for Takumi appearing here to protect him from the 7th elder, that was also a part of his plan. Otherwise he wouldn't have explained this situation to the man so clearly yesterday. Creator's thoughts. Hanma_Jack. Up to 60 additional chapters ahead are available on my Patreon. The link is below as well on this story's main page. Chapter 10, Deeper Knowledge of the Byakugan. A few hours after returning home, as Hikari walked towards the dojo where he and Takumi were set to begin their first training session, he couldn't help but reflect on the inherent advantages that shinobi hailing from major clans held over their sad civilian counterparts. His recovery process, facilitated by a few extra soldier and chakra medical pills to rejuvenate his physical state and replenish his chakra levels respectively, along with a herb bath prepared in his personal bathroom, inside of his room, to relieve his fatigue courtesy of Takumi's instructions to the servants, had Hikari feeling nearly revitalized after his earlier intense, nearly life and death level of exertions. And it didn't end there, because Takumi also promised that this would be his daily routine from now on to supplement his training like every other main branch member also enjoyed. This rapid recovery regimen underscored for Hikari the disparities in resources and support systems available to clan shinobi versus those accessible to civilian shinobi. By leveraging just these 3 recovery methods, each employed in moderate, safe doses, a shinobi from a prominent clan could feasibly train 2 to 3 times more efficiently in both ninjutsu and taijutsu, as well as in other chakra-reliant disciplines, compared to their civilian peers. Moreover, this intensified training regimen was not only more effective but also considerably more comfortable, enabling clan shinobi to achieve comparable or superior results without the same level of strain or discomfort experienced by those without such resources. However, to be more precise, not every shinobi clan boasts the same wealth and resources as the Hyuga clan. Indeed, the vast majority do not. Furthermore, not every child born into a ninja clan is considered part of its core or inner circle or similarly highly talented, and thus would not receive the level of training and resources available to someone like Hikari now. Hikari soon arrived at one of the estate's dojos, a spacious training area that boasted both indoor and outdoor sections, symbolic of the 5th elder's estate's grandeur. This particular dojo was one of many within the compound, each designed to cater to different aspects of shinobi training, from taijutsu to ninjutsu and beyond. The architecture harmoniously blended traditional design with the functional needs of a modern shinobi, featuring high ceilings for aerial maneuvers, durable flooring to withstand rigorous training, and large sliding doors that opened to a serene outdoor area. The outdoor area itself was a meticulously maintained space, with gravel paths leading to various training grounds, each surrounded by lush greenery and tranquil water features that contributed to a calming atmosphere. After ensuring Hikari's readiness and physical state, Takumi shifted the conversation toward the main agenda of their meeting. Hikari-kun, before we dive into today's training, which will introduce you to the core fighting technique of our clan, nearly everything else is built upon the gentle fist. I need to ensure you are fully versed in our Kekkei Genkai, the Byakugan. It's crucial to understand that the gentle fist style is intricately linked with the Byakugan's capabilities. Without a deep understanding of our dojutsu, mastering the gentle fist would be impossible, Takumi explained. So, first, show me your Byakugan clearly right now. Yes, sensei, Hikari responded eagerly. Without hesitation, he activated his Byakugan after quickly using a specific one-handed seal. It only took him 3 seconds in total to open it. As the dojutsu came to life, Hikari's eyes underwent a big change. Veins near his temples bulged prominently, whereas his pupils and irises changed into being somewhat sharper. Great speed, Hikari-kun. And this is just after opening those eyes yesterday. I believe that soon you won't even need the hand seal and will be able to activate it quicker, perhaps nearly instantaneously. You truly have remarkable talent. Now, tell me, how far can you see right now? Takumi spoke, his tone rich with appreciation. This time, he didn't hold back any praise. Given Hikari's evident achievements and the rapid adaptation to his Byakugan, withholding compliments would have seemed odd. "Thank you, sensei, let me see." Hikari focused harder, pushing his Byakugan to its limits as he surveyed the expanse of the estate. After a moment, he shared, "I think it's around 50 meters right now, but I could probably push that to double if I really tried. Though, I worry it might strain my eyesight too much." Hikari was honest in his response, knowing he had to show off his skills while also being careful not to push himself too hard. Takumai nodded, taking a moment to think over Hikari's words before offering further guidance. "All right, now try again to look as far as you can while also fully using your 360 vision from the beginning. And let me know what you find out," Takumai suggested, as if he wanted to teach him some fact in this way next. Hikari just nodded and then tried to do as he was told. However, just as Hikari attempted to follow Takumai's instruction, a sharp pain shot through his eyes mere seconds into the attempt. Surprised and unable to continue, he quickly ceased his effort, realizing the difficulty of simultaneously extending his vision and utilizing the 360-degree capability. "My eyes suddenly hurt a lot, sensei. It felt like there was some kind of a block in trying to use my eyes further, so I had to stop after just a few meters." "I'm sorry. You've made a wise decision to stop, Hikari-kun. I suspect you already grasp why this occurred. It's incredibly challenging to utilize several of the Byakugan's main abilities simultaneously. Your earlier estimate of a 50-meter range without straining your eyesight wasn't entirely accurate. The reason you reached that distance is that we're in a densely constructed area of the Hyuga compound, filled with walls and human-made constructions. This environment required you to use your clairvoyance in conjunction with your long-distance vision nearly the entire time. But, if we were in an open field, with no obstructions to your sight, you could potentially extend your telescopic vision up to 3 times further," Takumai explained, offering insight into the complexities and limitations of the Byakugan. "That's precisely why most Byakugan users in our clan choose to specialize and focus their training on one of the 3 main abilities. Attempting to master all 3 simultaneously would lead to excessive chakra consumption and eye strain, to the point where they wouldn't achieve significant mastery in any of them. It's acceptable to mix these abilities occasionally, but it's essential to choose one as your primary focus. Given your talent in all 3 areas, the choice of which to specialize in falls entirely to your personal preference," Takumai elaborated. "You have the option to specialize in clairvoyance, enhancing your ability to see in detail through obstacles and within covered objects. Alternatively, you could focus on refining your 360-degree vision, enabling you to perceive your surroundings with greater clarity in every direction. Or, you might prefer to develop your long-range vision, which allows for broader, albeit less detailed, observation across vast distances. This latter skill is particularly valued among our clan's auxiliary and support shinobi, mostly chunin and special jonin. But, their unique capabilities make them indispensable for their reconnaissance and support roles. On the other hand, our clan's combatants, including jonin and elite jonin like myself, often prioritize 360-degree vision for enhanced situational awareness and defense during close combat. Clairvoyance is another focus, especially useful for identifying and targeting an opponent's chakra points and internal organs with better precision. Each path offers its own advantages and strategic applications in battle. The choice depends on how you envision your role within the clan and on the battlefield," Takumai explained, laying out the options. Hikari, meanwhile, suddenly began pondering deeply, for a few moments, after hearing Takumai's explanation, about the distinctions in Byakugan abilities among clan members, reflecting on Hinata's and Niji's respective proficiencies as depicted in the original story. Hinata was renowned for her exceptional telescopic vision, capable of extending up to a kilometer as a genin, and further expanding her range significantly as she matured later. In contrast, Niji, despite not matching Hinata's huge range, instead excelled in the clairvoyance of his close-range vision, particularly in identifying human chakra points well, a skill that highlighted his mastery of the gentle fist from a young age, leaving Hinata in his shadow in the eyes of Hayashi, the patriarch, and most other characters at that time. This validated Takumai's words even more in Hikari's mind about support and main roles within the clan. And Hayashi and other elders certainly weren't happy about the successor being a supporting one at that time. Therefore the following plots regarding Hinata and Hanabi were also logical. Furthermore, this contrast also led Hikari to now contemplate the possibility of an inherent, genetic predisposition towards excelling in specific aspects of the Byakugan's capabilities between different Hyugas. So, does this mean there's not only a focus chosen during one's training but also an innate genetic factor determining which of the 3 abilities one might excel in? Hikari pondered. However, Takumai's observation that Hikari showed talent in all three areas, after the previous short checkup, suggested that his potential limitations in mastering all three were not innate but only related to his current level of chakra, spiritual energy, eyesight, and learning ability. Nevertheless, confident in his potential for growth in all three of these areas, Hikari began to seriously consider a bold approach. Then maybe I should aim to enhance all three abilities, not concurrently use them, but to develop each more to have them available in my skill set. Creator's thoughts. Hanma_Jack. Up to 60 additional chapters ahead are available on my Patreon. The link is below as well on this story's main page. Chapter 11, The Degree of Hyuga Clan's Power. Then, after Hikari mentioned that he would take some time to decide which of the three paths to focus on more in the future, Takumai's demeanor shifted to a more serious tone. He began to share with Hikari several important facts about the Byakugan that Hikari hadn't known or was only vaguely aware of, both from his past life's knowledge and his current life's experiences. Takumai explained that there was a strict rule against activating the Byakugan within Konoha village itself, except within the confines of the Hyuga compound. This rule was established by mutual agreement during the founding of Konoha. The concern was that the Hyuga clan, being located close to important buildings like the Hokage's office and other clan compounds, could inadvertently uncover sensitive information or violate the privacy of villagers, including potentially observing individuals beneath their clothes. Such surveillance was deemed unacceptable by the rest of the village, leading to the prohibition of Byakugan use outside the Hyuga compound without explicit permission from Konoha's authorities, except under special circumstances such as a village-wide emergency. Violating this agreement would lead to severe consequences. Furthermore, Takumai revealed that around the Hyuga clan's extensive compound, a powerful spiritual barrier had been erected, supplemented with special minerals. This barrier was under the direct supervision of Konoha's barrier team, ensuring that members of the Hyuga clan could not use their Byakugan to peer outside of Konoha from within their compound. Not just surrounding the compound, but also within it, many similar barriers have been erected, like around the Fifth Elder's residence. This barrier served to prevent any other members of the Hyuga clan from peering inside, ensuring a layer of privacy and security. Hikari also learned that the much-discussed, so-called blind spot in the 360-degree vision of the Byakugan was not as significant a weakness as he had thought. Interestingly, this limitation was predominantly applicable to members of the side branch of the Hyuga clan. And nowadays it is often employed tactically by the side branch members on the battlefield, serving more as a means to mislead opponents into underestimating the Byakugan user. This strategic use of the blind spot could be leveraged to bait enemies in the direction that was already predicted, drawing them into a false sense of security before springing a trap. As Hikari's curiosity grew, he began to ask Takumai a series of questions, to which Takumai was willing to provide detailed answers, helping Hikari clear up many important doubts. Given that Hikari hadn't been able to directly engage with all the relevant materials Takumai had previously provided him before, as he could with a living expert of the highest order within the Hyuga clan, he was eager to acquire a more comprehensive understanding now. Through their conversation, Hikari came to realize a significant misconception from his previous life, the notion that the Hyuga clan was foolish for not utilizing ninjutsu, genjutsu, and other techniques was entirely unfounded. Contrary to this belief, the Hyuga did not solely rely on the gentle fist technique, it was just the basis of their overall skill set, but many individual members were also proficient in ninjutsu, genjutsu, medical jutsu, and even fuinjutsu, sealing techniques. In fact, a significant portion of Konoha's most skilled medical experts were Hyuga clan members. Their Byakugan and proficiency in the gentle fist made them exceptionally talented in medical fields for several reasons. Firstly, the Hyuga's ability to see the chakra pathways and points within the body with their Byakugan provided them with unique insights into the human anatomy, allowing for more precise and effective medical treatment. This internal vision enabled them to diagnose conditions and injuries with a level of detail that was unmatched by other medical ninja. Secondly, their mastery of the gentle fist allowed them to manipulate the body's chakra system directly. Some Hyuga medics could use this knowledge to stimulate the healing process, even in the heat of battle, by enhancing chakra and blood flow within their own bodies or their patients. This capability to kickstart the body's natural healing mechanisms and improve overall vitality made the Hyuga invaluable on the battlefield and in medical facilities alike. This, coupled with their roles in reconnaissance and intelligence gathering, arguably positioned the Hyuga clan as even more valuable for Konoha overall than the Uchiha clan, who were more frontal fighters, which also increased the varying toward them in the eyes of the rest of the village. The Byakugan's ability to see vast distances and through obstacles made Hyuga members key assets in surveillance and information collection, contributing significantly to the village's strategic capabilities. This understanding underscored why the Hyuga clan held a position in Konoha comparable to that of the Uchiha clan. Unlike the Uchihas, who were more overt and, at times, perceived as arrogant about their prowess, the Hyugas preferred to maintain a low profile, quietly consolidating their strength. They didn't boast about their capabilities, instead, they were the backbone of the village's support and auxiliary functions. This approach not only secured them wealth and power on par with the Uchiha clan but also earned them a more favorable reputation for their versatility and reliability within the village. Regarding interrogating prisoners or gathering intelligence from enemies, similar to how the Uchiha clan might use their Sharingan, the Hyuga clan could achieve comparable results. Their advanced observational skills, enhanced by the Byakugan, allow them to notice the smallest changes in a person's body and mental state by observing their chakra flow. This ability to see subtle shifts gives them an edge in extracting information or understanding an enemy's intentions, making the Hyuga's techniques just as effective for intelligence gathering as those of the Uchiha. The misconceptions of netizens from his previous life got even more amusing to Hikari, especially after learning that the Hyuga clan was also exceptionally skilled even in genjutsu itself, not on the level of the Uchiha clan, but they were way ahead of nearly everyone else. In fact, the clan boasted numerous genjutsu experts, with some clansmen specializing in this area alone achieving the level of elite jonin just through that. The fifth elder, Takumai, who stood before him, served as a prime example. In his past life, Hikari might have doubted such a claim, but after checking it multiple times, he became convinced. This elder, along with his entire fifth lineage, excelled in genjutsu, making it their main area of higher-level expertise after mastering the gentle fist taijutsu techniques too. The unique abilities of the Byakugan, such as clairvoyance, long-distance vision, and 360-degree perception, naturally complemented the use of genjutsu. These capabilities allowed Hyuga shinobi to cast illusions on their opponents suddenly and from great distances, and positions from which they didn't expect it, while also leveraging their insight into the opponent's chakra flow. Additionally, their adeptness in manipulating yin chakra within an opponent's chakra system could enhance the effectiveness and duration of their illusions, making them more potent and difficult to counter. Indeed, Hikari realized that the Hyuga clan had developed numerous unique, strong genjutsu techniques over the hundreds of years, designed to leverage the unique capabilities of their Byakugan and to integrate seamlessly with the foundational gentle fist main techniques. This realization led him to hypothesize that the reason many of these advanced techniques were not mentioned in the original stories was due to their being closely guarded secrets of the main branch. He believed that these techniques were learned only by Takumai, the clan leader, the other elders, and their lineages. This meant that the most powerful moves of the Hyuga clan were hidden from the side branch members who often fought in battles. These side branch members might know basic ways to channel a little of their yin genjutsu chakra in their gentle fist attacks if they were exceptionally lucky or talented to learn that on their own, but they didn't have access to the more advanced techniques. And this is not only the case with genjutsu techniques, but many other techniques as well. Furthermore, Hikari also knew that the Hyuga clan wasn't just good at using genjutsu, they were also really hard to trick with it. Thanks to their Byakugan, they could see when someone was about to use genjutsu on them by noticing changes in that person's chakra. Plus, Hyuga clan members who were good at controlling their chakra could break free from genjutsu, on their own, easily. And not only that, Hikari also confirmed that some jonin and elite jonin of the Hyuga clan could use their Byakugan to see weak points in an enemy's ninjutsu attacks. So, besides being skilled at using and defending against genjutsu, the Hyuga clan also had an edge in dealing with various ninjutsu like shadow clones and others, including various chakra nature transformation ninjutsu techniques. Their ability to observe chakra made it easy for them to spot the difference between a clone and a real person. With this insight, they could either easily break through these attacks or counter them effectively using their gentle fist technique. Splitting, deflecting, and outright destroying elemental ninjutsu attacks also wasn't impossible for them. Takumai brought up these points as he began to shift the conversation towards finally starting to teach Hikari more about the gentle fist next. Chapter 12, The Basics of the Gentle Fist Style. As Hikari stood before Takumai, the fifth elder began, his voice stern and commanding, setting the stage for a crucial lesson in the Hyuga clan's martial arts. The gentle fist isn't just a style of fighting, it's a precise method to incapacitate or even kill an opponent by targeting parts of their chakra pathway system. Takumai explained, his gaze fixed on Hikari as if to gauge his reaction. Hikari, maintaining his role as the eager-to-learn child, nodded respectfully. And with the Byakugan's vision, we can see that entire chakra system allowing for that, Takumai continued, Tell me, Hikari-kun, do you understand why this gives us an advantage? Yes, sensei, Hikari replied, his voice steady, because we can see the chakra pathways and the 361 chakra points so clearly, we can target them extremely precisely unlike anyone else in the shinobi world, causing internal damage that can't be easily defended against. Takumai nodded slightly, acknowledging Hikari's correct answer, exactly. Our strikes are not brute force but calculated intrusions of chakra into an opponent's body. A single well-placed strike can be lethal. Do you know why? Hikari, maintaining his respectful demeanor, replied confidently, because the entire chakra pathway system of the human body is intimately directly intertwined with every organ, muscle, vessel, and cell. By disturbing the enemy's own chakra flow with our own chakra, it could hurt their inner organs in that way indirectly. Precisely, Takumai affirmed before deciding to go even deeper, the gentle fist technique is a refined art. We focus our chakra into our hands and release it in a precise burst directly into the opponent's chakra pathways upon contact. This forceful intrusion of foreign chakra causes significant damage to the cells connected to these pathways, leading to internal injuries. This method is particularly effective against the internal organs. They are vulnerable because, unlike muscles that can be strengthened, organs cannot be trained to resist damage. A well-placed strike can cause pain, internal bleeding, or even disrupt an organ's function enough to incapacitate or fatally wound someone. So, you should mainly focus on that. Takumai's expression grew more serious if that were possible, but if you can't get the organs successfully, don't worry. Our techniques can also damage nerve endings, burst blood vessels, and bruise muscles with even a glancing blow, so no matter where you hit, it will cause damage. Our techniques also allow us to strike with precision, bypassing armor and clothing. But the true mastery of the gentle fist lies in the ability to close chakra points. This requires not just the Byakugan's sight but exceptional skill and control. Each point closed can significantly impact an enemy's ability to use chakra. Hikari absorbed every word, outwardly the picture of a diligent student soaking in wisdom. Takumai regarded Hikari for a moment longer, then turned to the center of the dojo. Let's begin with the basics. The foundation of all you will learn starts with how to focus chakra on your palms at first, but ideally with your fingers as well as you get more proficient in it over time. Pay close attention. Takumai stood before Hikari in the dojo, his posture rigid and his expression stern. Despite his stern demeanor, there was a faint hint of approval in his eyes. Hikari, on his part, maintained the facade of a respectful and curious child, though, beneath the surface, his mind was as cold and calculating as ever, driven by a desire for power. Now, shall we finally begin your training in the gentle fist? Takumai announced, his voice filled with a seriousness that demanded attention. And lastly, remember again. This is not just a fighting style. It is the embodiment of our clan's power and heritage. You must not only learn its techniques but understand its essence. Hikari nodded, his eyes wide with a child's curiosity, yet his mind always raced, absorbing every word. Takumai continued, demonstrating a stance that was both relaxed and ready. Observe. With a swift motion, he executed a series of palm strikes into the air, each movement precise and controlled. Takumai then turned to Hikari, his gaze sharp. Show me your stance. Hikari, still playing the part of the eager student, took up the stance as best he could mimic. Takumai corrected his posture with quick, efficient movements, each touch firm yet devoid of any gentleness. Good. Now, strike, Takumai commanded, stepping back to give Hikari space. Hikari executed the strikes. His movements were clumsy compared to Takumai's but filled with a determination unseen in most children his age. Again, Takumai instructed, and the cycle repeated. With each strike, Hikari's form improved, driven by his unyielding will to master the technique and, with it, gain the power he so desired. He knew that the crux of this ability was embedding these exquisite moves into his muscle memory. It was not physicality-based like the strong fist was, this was purely the technical version of taijutsu art. Meanwhile, Takumai stopped him once again and performed another move. He gestured for Hikari to follow his gaze as he shifted into a defensive stance, demonstrating the fluidity and readiness that the Byakugan's vision afforded him. With the Byakugan's all-seeing vision, we are aware of attacks from any direction, enabling us to evade or counter with unmatched precision. This omnidirectional awareness is crucial for maintaining control over the battlefield. I'm going to show you the basic gentle fist stances and movements we start beginners with, focusing mainly on palm strikes. Watch closely and mimic my movements. It's important to memorize each stance, attack, and movement. You'll practice these daily, and I'll be there to guide and correct you until you've perfected them. Once you've mastered the basics, we'll move on to more precise movements that involve using your fingers and advanced gentle fist techniques. Takumai stood at the center of the dojo, his presence commanding even in the quiet space. He motioned for Hikari to watch carefully as he prepared to demonstrate the foundational techniques of the gentle fist. He began with slow, deliberate movements, each palm strike flowing seamlessly into the next. Takumai demonstrated a series of combinations, starting with basic forward thrusts, side strikes, and defensive maneuvers, all executed with precision. His hands seemed to barely touch the air, yet the power behind each movement was palpable, even to an onlooker. After completing the sequence, Takumai turned to Hikari, "Now, you try. Remember, it's not about speed or power at this stage. Focus on form and precision." Hikari stepped into the designated spot, mimicking the stance Takumai had shown. He started the combinations, his movements hesitant at first as he tried to recall the sequence of strikes and positions. With each repetition, however, his confidence grew, and the movements began to flow more naturally. Takumai watched closely, interjecting with corrections when needed. "Straighten your back more. Focus your chakra at the point of impact. Remember to keep your vision broad, don't fixate on a single point." The hour passed in a cycle of demonstration, practice, and correction. Hikari repeated the combinations over and over, each time with increasing accuracy and understanding of the techniques. The session was rigorous, demanding Hikari's full attention and effort, but it was also illuminating, offering him a glimpse into the depth and power of the gentle fist style. Chapter 13, Finishing the First Training Session. Takumai offered a slight nod of approval, acknowledging Hikari's natural aptitude. "You're showing great potential once again," he admitted, his tone carrying a hint of praise yet remaining grounded. "But remember, these movements are akin to an empty dance without the ability to actually channel and project chakra from your palms first. Remember? That's the essence of our gentle fist, to use your chakra to directly affect your opponent's chakra pathway system." He paused to demonstrate, focusing his chakra on his palm, making it visible to the naked eye. "Watch closely with your Byakugan harder now," he instructed Hikari. As Takumai's chakra flared, it served as a vivid example of the control and power a skilled Hyuga could wield. A true practitioner of the Byakugan isn't limited to just palms and fingers, they can extend chakra from any point in their body, Takumai explained, emphasizing the versatility and surprise element this skill offered both in offense and defense. This ability is fundamental for surprise attacks and protecting oneself. He then shifted his stance, showcasing the seamless integration of chakra control with the physical movements he had just taught. "What you've learned today is the first foundational layer of the gentle fist. Another step is mastering the projection of your chakra. This style isn't just about striking, it's about how you engage your chakra pathway system to interact with and disrupt your opponents instead." Takumai's gaze met Hikari's, serious and expectant. "After you return to your room, focus on this aspect of your training. Learning to accurately eject chakra from your body is crucial. It's what transforms these movements from mere forms into the powerful techniques that define the gentle fist." However, to Takumai's surprise, after closely observing the elder's demonstration of chakra control and ejection, Hikari's focus intensified. His Byakugan flared with concentration, beads of sweat forming on his forehead as he concentrated deeply. Under Takumai's watchful and somewhat astonished gaze, Hikari lifted his palm upward. Gradually, he began to gather chakra there, visibly concentrating it more and more until a small, flame-like aura became visible, hovering just above his skin. The room fell into stunned silence as Takumai witnessed this display of raw talent and control from such a young student. It was an unexpected demonstration of Hikari's capability, one that went beyond mere potential. Hikari, as if basking in his achievement, suddenly, let a victorious smile spread across his face, the kind of pure, childlike joy at mastering a new skill. Then, with a cheeky grin aimed at Takumai, he said, "Don't worry, sensei, I will be careful to practice this aspect as well later." Takumai, momentarily silenced by the display, soon found his voice, a mix of astonishment and admiration coloring his tone. "You're good," he acknowledged, the surprise evident in his voice. "Just by observing me once, you've managed to accomplish this? Very well, now that you've mastered this step, you should proceed with the other chakra control exercises I provided in those materials yesterday. Just follow the instructions outlined there. I believe you won't require my assistance in that regard at all, seeing how smart you are." The realization of Hikari's innate talent prompted Takumai to adjust his training plan on the spot. Given your evident aptitude, he continued with a genuine interest this time, I've decided to introduce you to the third fundamental block of gentle fist training today. You are also going to practice at home. You're ready to begin working on it sooner than I anticipated. The third fundamental ingredient involves incrementally increasing your body's overall speed by directing chakra from your pathways to your muscles. This must be done in small doses, he explained, emphasizing the importance of control. Overdoing it could lead to excessive force, disrupting the precision of your gentle fist strikes. This technique is, therefore, mostly applied to the leg muscles, enhancing your mobility rather than the strength of your hand strikes. It enables us to close the distance to our opponents more swiftly, compensating for the gentle fist's inherent close combat limitation. Watch closely. With that, Takumai prepared to demonstrate, his demeanor shifting to one of focused intent. Hikari's Byakugan activated, not wanting to miss a moment of the display. Takumai then began to move around the dojo with astonishing speed, each step propelled by a subtle surge of chakra to his legs. To Hikari's eyes, Takumai almost seemed to blur, moving like a shadow that danced from one end of the space to the other. Yet, despite the speed, Takumai's palm strikes remained precise and controlled. He demonstrated how to approach an imaginary opponent, closing the distance rapidly before delivering a series of gentle fist strikes. Each movement was fluid, a testament to years of practice and mastery. As Hikari observed Takumai's demonstration with his Byakugan fully activated, he barely kept pace with the elder's movements. Yet, it was the preliminary glimpse into how Takumai harnessed and directed chakra into his leg muscles that truly captivated him. This insight into Takumai's technique was a revelation to Hikari, expanding his understanding of the Hyuga clan's capabilities and the potential applications of their Kekkei Genkai. The notion that the Hyuga could achieve a continuous, lower-intensity version of the body flicker jutsu through precise internal chakra control was astonishing. Hikari realized that the Byakugan's ability to provide an internal view of one's chakra pathway system and muscles could simplify complex techniques that required intricate chakra control, making them more accessible to Hyuga practitioners compared to shinobi like Minato Namikaze or Shisui Uchiha. Hikari mused on the possibilities this technique offered, both in combat and strategic retreats. If not for the need to maintain the rhythm of the gentle fist in legs too, some Hyuga might have earned the moniker associated with the body flicker technique instead. It will be very easy for me to learn that technique fully in the future for potential escape scenarios. Sure enough, real life is different from fiction. The Hyuga clan was indeed massively underestimated, Hikari once again lamented at the ignorance of some people. Following the demonstration, Takumai addressed the still-dazed Hikari, offering further guidance for his independent practice. You're free to work on this speed-enhancing technique on your own, but proceed with caution, Takumai advised, underscoring the importance of safety in solo training sessions. Our morning sessions will focus only on refining your gentle fist movements. It's crucial to get your stances and strikes exactly right into your muscle memory, and I'll be there to correct any mistakes and improve your form over time. The other two things you can do yourself basically at home, Takumai explained, setting the agenda for their ongoing training. After all, he was a very busy individual, and chakra control was usually a much simpler process to train at and relied more on time, whereas gentle fist movements relied more on experience and finesses that required the assistance of a senior Hyuga member to pass it. With their plan for the coming days established, they agreed to reconvene again the next morning to continue Hikari's training. Takumai offered a nod of approval, recognizing Hikari's dedication and eagerness to learn. See you tomorrow, Hikari-kun. Remember, patience and diligence are your allies in mastering the gentle fist, he said, imparting a final piece of wisdom before parting. Creator's thoughts. Hanma_Jack. Up to 60 additional chapters ahead are available on my Patreon. The link is below as well on this story's main page. Chapter 14, Working Hard and Night Pondering. Once back in the comfort of his living space, Hikari settled into the expansive room designated for his use. After indulging in yet another opulent meal, a luxury afforded only to those of the Hyuga main branch, rich in proteins and meticulously designed to enhance both physical strength and chakra reserves gradually. Hikari found himself surrounded by scrolls and paper materials that spanned the length and breadth of Hyuga clan techniques. He felt a sense of determination take over. He took a moment to absorb the quiet around him, allowing the day's lessons and insights to fully sink in before turning his attention to planning. Pulling a sheet of paper toward him along with an ink brush, Hikari began to strategize his short-term training routine. The room, filled with the soft rustling of paper and the faint scent of ink, became a sanctuary of focus and ambition. He decided that his days would start with the gentle fist training with Takumai. This session was going to get longer as his body got more used to the routines and he learned new techniques. Takumai had mentioned the importance of doing this first thing in the morning. That way, Hikari would be fresh, and full of energy, and his chakra levels would be at their peak after a good night's sleep. After wrapping up the morning session with Takumai, Hikari planned to take a short break. This wasn't just about resting his body but also about letting his mind absorb everything he'd learned. Once he felt ready, he would move on to practicing chakra control. He knew this part of his training wasn't as physically demanding, so it could be done directly soon after that hard training, but it was just as crucial. Hikari knew mastering chakra wasn't just about showing off big moves. It was about the small details, controlling how long and how much chakra he could push out from different areas and chakra points of his body. This skill was key for his gentle fist techniques to work. To get better at this, Hikari couldn't just stick to the basics like tree climbing or water walking that most ninja kids in Konoha did. He needed something extra, something to push him further. That's why, following Takumai's advice, he got a set of chakra balancing stones. These weren't just any stones. They were special, small enough to fit on the back of his hand or the tip of his finger, and they needed a steady flow of chakra to keep them balanced. And they could be placed at any chakra point or area of his body if they were bigger-sized ones. Using these stones, Hikari had to constantly change how much chakra he used to keep them constantly steady. And that wasn't easy. It meant he had to get really good at controlling his chakra, understanding how it flowed through his body, and adjusting it on the fly many times. After giving his body some time to recover from the intense morning training and chakra control exercises, Hikari would be ready to dive into the next part of his daily routine, the physical training. The Hyuga clan had a set protocol for physical conditioning that all young members followed, but Hikari had a few tricks up his sleeve from his previous life that he planned to integrate into this training regimen. For example, yoga, Hikari thought would help with flexibility and better breathing capacity for oxygen intake. Poses like a warrior and the downward dog would improve his movements in combat. For strength, he'd do push-ups, squats, and lunges to build muscle for stronger hits. Endurance would come from running and shadowboxing. This would keep him going longer in fights and sharpen his strikes. Core balance exercises like planks would help keep him stable in fights, making it harder for opponents to knock him off balance. And to jump higher, he'd do box jumps and skip rope, making his legs stronger for quick movements and dodges. Then, after completing his physical training, Hikari would take advantage of medical baths and pills provided by the Hyuga clan to speed up his recovery. These traditional remedies, rich in herbs known for their healing properties, would help soothe his muscles and replenish his energy faster than usual. Then, as evening approached and his body felt rejuvenated, Hikari would shift his focus to mental and spiritual development. He would dedicate next time to reading, delving into the vast collection of scrolls and books available to him. That would not only expand his knowledge but would also help him accumulate spiritual energy. It was a well-known fact. As the day wound down and Hikari finished his planning, reading, and all of the previous steps, he finished planning and wrote on a scroll earlier today, he turned his attention to one of the most critical aspects of his training regimen, exercising his Byakugan, his biggest gift. He needed to do this only after he finished reading everything he wanted to read for the day due to obvious reasons. This practice involved various exercises designed to push the limits of his Byakugan's range, clarity, and the precision of his chakra point targeting. He would start by focusing on distant objects, gradually increasing the distance as much as possible, to expand his telescopic vision. Then, he would shift to practicing his 360-degree vision, trying to capture as much detail in his surroundings as he could, improving his spatial awareness. These nightly sessions would not only strengthen his Byakugan but also deepen his connection to his dojutsu, making him more attuned to its nuances and future potential. Hikari knew that mastering his Byakugan was key to unlocking new levels of power and abilities that would set him apart from other people in this world. After these rigorous exercises, Hikari began to meditate, allowing his eyes and body to rest and recover from the strain. This meditation helped him consolidate the day's learnings and experiences, preparing him mentally and physically for the next day's challenges. Meditation would also become a crucial part of his evening routine. Hikari would combine meditation practices from his past life with the techniques recommended in the Hyuga clan's meditation protocols. That would also calm him down just in time to go to sleep at night. As darkness enveloped the village, Hikari concluded his day's rigorous training schedule. He found himself seated on the wooden floor of his room, gazing out towards the tranquil night that unfolded across his private courtyard. Beyond, the imposing silhouette of the Hokage mountain loomed, bathed in the soft glow of the moonlight, with stars twinkling like distant, watchful eyes in the clear night sky. The scene was peaceful, almost serene, offering a stark contrast to the whirlwind of activities that filled his day. In this quiet moment, the reality of his situation began to truly sink in for Hikari. He had crossed the boundary between worlds, leaving behind everything familiar to embark on a life in a world that, until recently, had existed only in stories. As the second day in this new reality drew to a close, he couldn't help but reflect on his solitary journey. Despite his cold, calculating nature and a disposition that leaned towards ruthlessness, Hikari wasn't immune to the sense of isolation that his unique circumstances fostered. However, solitude was not a stranger to him, it had been a constant companion in his previous life as well. Yet, the loneliness he might have felt was overshadowed by the oddity of his new existence. The moon that hung overhead, a celestial body he knew to be an artificial creation housing a sealed entity, served as a stark reminder of the strangeness of this world. The knowledge that he alone possessed about the true nature of the moon, among other secrets of this world, added layers to his sense of detachment. Yet, it also fortified his resolve to navigate this world with the same cold, strategic approach that had defined him. As Hikari's gaze met the moonlit sky, his thoughts ventured toward the possible paths to personal power he could take in the future. Amidst this contemplation, fundamentally, a profound sense of thankfulness washed over him. He recognized the rarity of his birthright, being part of a lineage genetically directly connected to those celestial beings, the Otsutsuki clan. This connection wasn't just a matter of pride, it was a significant advantage in a world where one's innate qualifications and bloodline often dictated their potential and end place in life. The Byakugan, Hikari's inherited Kekkei Genkai, held a significance that transcended typical bloodline abilities. That's why Hikari placed such a high emphasis on specifically training it. Unlike strange genetic mutation-type Kekkei Genkai, manifesting accidentally thanks to specific unique environmental circumstances for some individuals in history and then getting passed on to their offspring, or other unique developments, like Hyuga's clan for example. Also, unlike more elemental Kekkei Genkai, which emerged through the innovative merging of two distinct chakra natures by some talented ordinary shinobi in the past, resulting in new elements then passed down genetically to their descendants, the Byakugan stood apart. The Byakugan wasn't birthed from human circumstances or ingenuity. Instead, it represented a far more esteemed heritage, one not from human hands but directly from celestial origins. And it wasn't just about Byakugan, it was also about the more advantageous DNA of Hyuga clan members fundamentally. Nevertheless, possessing even an elemental Kekkei Genkai, a product of human creativity and chakra manipulation, significantly elevates inheritor above the civilian shinobi at least hundreds of times in terms of potential, and also puts them way above the clan shinobi from clans that merely transmit unique, secret techniques, such as the Nara, Yamanaka, Akimichi, and others. However, the Byakugan was of a different caliber altogether, a direct heirloom from the extraterrestrial beings who were the ones who even introduced chakra to this world. This realization filled Hikari with a deep sense of fortune, knowing he was among the descendants of Kagaya Otsutsuki, part of an elite lineage that included the 6 families that included Senju, Uzumaki, Hyuga, Uchiha, Kagaya, and Tonari's clan living on that moon. This lineage wasn't merely about possessing a formidable power, it was about the potential to ascend to unprecedented levels of strength, to the revered 6 paths level. Achieving such a pinnacle of power was Hikari's dream, because it could transform one from being a mere pawn of fate to a master of one's destiny in Hikari's opinion. Had he been born a civilian, it would have been at least hundreds of times more difficult for Hikari to achieve his dreams, or even fully impossible. So, he was truly thankful for that. Even someone as highly intelligent and power-hungry as Orochimaru, who was always pushing the boundaries of what it meant to be a shinobi, struggled to surpass his human limitations in the original story. Despite his unique advantage from exploring the Raiwichi cave, he still couldn't break free from being just a human with an ordinary strong power level. This fact made Hikari realize how daunting the challenge was for everyone else who didn't have the Otsutsuki DNA traces in them, nearly the entire population of this planet. Take Might Guy, for example. He only touched that legendary power level for a brief moment, risking his life in the process, and even then, he barely scratched the surface of the 6 paths level for a few minutes. And Kakashi also temporarily achieved such heights only through the borrowed power of the Otsutsuki's Sharingan. This all highlighted to Hikari the sheer difficulty of reaching such a pinnacle of strength without the genetic advantage of Otsutsuki DNA. The stark deterministic reality of this world was not lost on him. However, inheriting one of those 6 legendary genetic legacies doesn't automatically guarantee prominence or ultimate power, it merely places one at the starting line of a vast and challenging arena. Achieving the exalted 6 paths level remains an endeavor as hard as climbing the heavens. This reality was illustrated clearly within the Hyuga clan, where despite the prestigious Byakugan, many members fall into mediocrity, blending into the background as mere footnotes in shinobi history. And that phenomenon wasn't unique to the Hyuga. The near-complete disappearances of the Senju, Uzumaki, Uchiha, Kagaya, and Tonari clans in the original story revealed it all the best. Possessing immense power often invites envy, fear, and greed, leading to downfall and destruction from both within and without in this world. Therefore, Hikari's gratitude for his Hyuga lineage over the others stems not only from the bloodline's inherent potential for the future but also from the clan's strategic low profile. Unlike the Uchiha, whose prominence and assertiveness led to their catastrophic and embarrassing demise, the Hyuga's survival strategy has been one of discretion and restraint. In this world, where the line between survival and annihilation is as thin as the edge of a kunai, Hikari recognizes the wisdom in Hyuga's approach, especially given the alternative. Chapter 15, Thoughts about Hyuga vs Uchiha. And Hikari wasn't just relieved to be born into the Hyuga clan because he avoided the kind of extermination he would have faced if he had been reborn into the Uchiha clan, for example. He also believes that, in terms of their current strength and potential, at this point in time, the Hyuga clan is on par with the Uchiha clan. This is contrary to the popular belief held by readers in Hikari's previous life, who generally viewed the Uchiha as the stronger of the two. After everything he learned in these few days, Hikari now considered the Byakugan to be a far more valuable dojutsu than the one-tomo Sharingan, and even more powerful in terms of pure vision and insight than even any higher version of the Sharingan in existence. Sharingan's mastery of insight and vision differed from the Byakugan's in that it primarily involved superpower like pattern recognition and memory recollection of observed patterns. This is why, historically, the Uchiha clan leaned heavily on skills like shinobi weapon throwing, kenjutsu, and, most importantly, ninjutsu, even developing strong affinities for fire, mainly, and lightning, secondary, releases over time. Their vision facilitated the easy copying and learning of ninjutsu over generations, leading them to develop fighting skill sets around it, unlike the Hyuga, who, with their internal and 360-degree vision, honed the gentle fist technique and mainly used ninjutsu as a supplementary skill. Therefore, while the Uchihas might not have had as diverse a range of visual abilities as the Byakugan, their unique talent allowed them to excel across various combat disciplines, truly mastering ninjutsu on a way higher level. However, without the second gift from the Sharingan, a heightened affinity for yin release, which was related to genjutsu, the Uchiha would still have been outmatched by the Hyuga. With this enhanced capability for genjutsu, the Uchiha became the strongest users of such techniques in the world, surpassing the Hyuga in this domain by far. So, only with their prowess in both ninjutsu and genjutsu could the Uchiha be on equal footing with the Hyuga. That exact affinity for yin release and genjutsu was also why they got famous for being able to control tailed beats. In fact, Hikari classified the Sharingan more as a vehicle of yin release affinity altogether rather than placing it in the same category as the Byakugan in terms of eyesight buffs. The requirement of experiencing strong emotional pressures to awaken the Sharingan spoke volumes to its true nature, aligning it more closely with yin release and spiritual elements rather than the eyesight and biological aspects characteristic of the Byakugan. The clearest example of how the Byakugan is more biological and the Sharingan more spiritual can be seen in how easily the Byakugan was transplanted to a non-clan member, Ao, in the original story. Ao could activate and deactivate the Byakugan at will and use it with minimal chakra expenditure, almost as if he were a native Hyuga. In contrast, the Sharingan, when transplanted into non-Uchiha like Kakashi, proved to be much more challenging to use. It couldn't be turned off at will, controlled easily, and it drained significant amounts of chakra and caused fatigue, which limited Kakashi's potential. This difference in usability led the Uchiha clan to not place any special jutsu to safeguard their eyes, unlike the Hyuga. The Uchiha likely felt secure in the knowledge that the Sharingan's demanding nature made it almost impossible for non-Uchiha shinobi to use it. Meanwhile, back on topic, Hikari believed that the 2 and 3 tomo stages of the Sharingan should be considered more valuable and stronger than the Byakugan, a departure from the assessment of the 1 tomo stage. This belief stemmed from the fact that advancing to the 2 and 3 tomo Sharingan not only retained the previous stage's advantages but also significantly boosted the user's spiritual energy. This increase in spiritual energy, in turn, expanded the user's overall chakra capacity. Since spiritual energy is typically more challenging to cultivate and often lags behind physical energy in development, users were previously unable to convert all their physical energy into chakra efficiently. However, the Sharingan's enhancement of spiritual energy bridged this gap, allowing for a more effective conversion and utilization of chakra. Consequently, users of the 2 and 3 Tomo Sharingan generally possessed greater strength than the average Byakugan wielder. The presence of a 3 Tomo Sharingan nearly guaranteed the status of an elite Jonin, while 2 Tomo were synonymous with Jonin level, and 1 Tomo indicated a special Jonin. In contrast, possessing the Byakugan did not automatically confer a Jonin ranking. Many Byakugan users in the Hyuga clan were Chunin. Even among those who reached Jonin level, the Byakugan often designated them to more supportive rather than frontline combat roles. But, getting to the 2 and 3 Tomo levels of the Sharingan was really tough, while most of the Hyuga clan, about 3 out of 4 people, could unlock the Byakugan. So, this kept the two clans pretty much even in terms of power. The fact that not many Uchiha could reach the higher levels of their Sharingan meant that its full power was rare. Meanwhile, because so many Hyugas could use the Byakugan, their strength was more spread out across the clan. So, this still kept the two clans balanced. However, in Hikari's mind, what really made a difference in how strong the two clans seemed was the existence of the Mangekyo Sharingan. Just waking up with this power could bring someone to a cage level automatically with all those special overpowered abilities and the boost in chakra. The Hyuga clan could match the Uchiha at the lower levels, and even at the very top levels, Hikari thought that the Tensegan and Rinnegan were equally strong. But it was those higher middle stages where the Uchiha clan had an edge and more potential. Yet, Hikari was convinced there had to be some hidden reason why the Hyuga didn't have a way to take the Byakugan to a higher level in a similar way. It just didn't make sense to him that such a possibility wouldn't exist. Hikari already figured out that the cursed seals played a part in this mystery. He now knew firsthand that the curse mark reduced the Byakugan's powers in the side branch members. But this raised another question: why hadn't anyone from the main branch managed to evolve their Byakugan to higher levels, similar to the Mangekyo Sharingan? The existence of the curse seal raised two significant questions for Hikari. The first was about its true purpose. It was clear to him that its use extended beyond merely protecting the Byakugan. If protection was the sole reason, there wouldn't be a need for such a harsh measure as the brain destruction command embedded within the seal. This led Hikari to believe that the development of the curse seal was prompted by circumstances or threats that required such an extreme response, not just the fear of the Byakugan falling into the wrong hands. The second mystery that puzzled him was why no one from the main branch had ever unlocked further abilities of the Byakugan, akin to the Mangekyo Sharingan's evolution. This is why Hikari was convinced that there must be multiple shocking secrets buried in the history of his clan. He was determined to uncover these secrets over time. He believed that understanding these hidden aspects of his clan's past might reveal the potential for the Byakugan's evolution, or at least explain why such an evolution hadn't occurred yet. In fact, Hikari came to realize that there might not even be an evolution akin to the Mangekyo Sharingan for the Byakugan. Instead of having distinct, binary visual transformations, the Byakugan's power lay in its purity and the potential for incremental improvement. This understanding led Hikari to focus intensely on training his Byakugan, hoping to gradually unlock new abilities over time. He entertained the hope that perhaps, with enough dedication and refinement of his dojutsu's purity, some new powers could manifest, possibly even suddenly overnight. However, during the period when Hikari was born, there were no Mangekyo Sharingan holders in the Uchiha clan, unlike the decades before or after the original story. This unique situation meant that the Hyuga and Uchiha clans could genuinely be considered of similar strength. Yet, the Uchiha, proud as they were, would never admit to this parity. Meanwhile, the Hyuga preferred to stay out of the limelight, adopting a strategic policy of keeping a low profile. As a result, this balance of power wasn't widely recognized among the general populace. And this assessment didn't even take into account the possibility of the Hyuga clan harboring more hidden secrets or weapons, something Hikari theorized. If his theory held true, then no one outside the few people placed at the top of the Hyuga clan truly knew the full extent of their comprehensive power in the ninja world. Regarding sociological factors that might influence the overall strength of the two clans, both had their share of internal issues. The Uchiha clan, with its deep emotional ties to the Sharingan, experienced civil strife and internal conflicts throughout history, including notable divisions into doves and hawks in recent decades and the civil war during Madara's defection. These ideological splits often led to tension and discord within the clan, impacting its unity and, by extension, its overall strength. On the other hand, the the Hyuga clan faced a different set of issues stemming from the division into main and side branches, which happened for some more tangible, mysterious reason in Hikari's speculation. Over time, the main branch became somewhat complacent, indulging in the privileges and comforts that came with their status. This indulgence led to a loss of the rigorous discipline and drive that might have propelled them to greater heights of power. Conversely, members of the side branch often felt demoralized and oppressed, burdened by the curse seal, and aware that no matter how hard they trained, they would never be able to rise to the top of the clan hierarchy. This resulted in a lack of motivation to push themselves to their limits. Meanwhile, the main branch lacked motivation for a different reason. They already had everything they needed and saw little reason to strive for more. This lack of a middle ground between the driven and the complacent further exacerbated the clan's internal issues, affecting its potential to grow stronger as a unified force as well. This all also doesn't consider that the Hyuga clan didn't have powerful Indra and Ashura reincarnations every few generations that gave rise to many overpowered individuals inside of the Senju and Uchiha clans that made them considerably stronger than the Hyuga clan during the Warring States period, for example, the last two being demigods like Hashirama and Madara just a few decades ago, and also probably the two strongest reincarnations. Chapter 16, Future Paths for Strength Growth. Nevertheless, Hikari's thoughts eventually returned to the immediate reality. All those grand ideas about reaching unprecedented levels of power and unveiling the secrets of this world meant nothing to him now. Right now, he was barely more than a powerful baby in this world, with his fate soon to be deliberated at the Hyuga Council meeting the next morning, so he had no luxury to think about anything else anymore. At this juncture, he had virtually no power to influence whatever decisions were to be made about him. He was just feeling grateful that if the outcome of tomorrow's meeting turned positive, then he would truly feel like he had a very lucky transmigration compared to the 99% of other possibilities. With a deep sigh, Hikari remained on the traditional Hyuga wooden plank, gazing out into the surreal landscape of the night, contemplating his next moves and the immediate future that awaited him. Knowledge means progress. I need to always be learning more in order to keep advancing levels. The information Takumai gave me will soon not be enough after I've gone through it. But, if that meeting goes well, he's likely to keep providing me with even more information in the future. Unfortunately, the Hyuga clan doesn't have something akin to a shared library. Instead, each main lineage keeps its collection, probably filled with a lot of the same information and techniques. Considering the clan has been around for nearly 1,000 years, it would make sense for knowledge to have spread easily by now alongside some unique stuff. My own lineage's inheritance is, however, not in my hands, Hikari thought. Gazing at the Grand Hokage rock in the distance, illuminated by the night, Hikari pondered his situation, thinking about going to and trying to learn something at the Ninja Academy. Well, I'm not out of my mind, he reflected silently. How can a place that's only been around for a few decades stand up to the 1,000 years of knowledge our clan has built? The majority of our elders were older than that institution. For civilians, Konoha's academy might be the only way out, but for us clan kids, it's not really about learning. It's all political games and making connections, and most clan heirs don't go there at all. At most only a few selected ones go there every year out of the total pool for political reasons and to give a little face to the Hokage. He continued his thought, however, I'd be foolish to try and sign up there now, especially after my parents already did what they did. Signing up for the academy might as well be signing my death certificate. This thought lingered in Hikari's mind as he took in the sight of the Hokage rock. Still, with Konoha's civilian population vastly outnumbering those of the clans, in theory, the Ninja Academy should excel in teaching various civilian subjects like geography, history, maths, and others, Hikari considered, his eyes still fixed on the distant Hokage rock. It's a pity, though, that we don't live in a world where those civilian topics hold the upper hand. Instead, power and strength dictate the order of things. And when it comes to that, the clans are unmatched. And those civilian subjects taught at the Ninja Academy, I probably have tens of times better grasp due to my previous life on Earth and modern education. As for the practical skills they teach at the academy, it's pretty much just some basic taijutsu moves and how to break out of simple genjutsu. Then there are those 3 crappy E-level, optical illusion, ninjutsu techniques, clone, transformation, and substitution. They're only useful if you aim to be cannon fodder in battle, sacrificing your life for Konoha, at best. Not many in the Hyuga clan waste their time on such basics. And when it comes to nature transformation techniques, dreaming about learning those at the academy is just that, a dream. After all, if such advanced skills were taught openly, how could Hiruzen use the promise of teaching higher level jutsu as leverage to coerce you into taking on missions? Offering those C-rank techniques as rewards for risking your life is part of how he keeps shinobi in line, Hikari thought, his critique of the academy's curriculum reflecting a deeper understanding of the village's dynamics and the manipulation at play within its leadership. Well, I guess they do teach some basics like kunao and shuriken throwing, and how to use ninja tools, which isn't totally useless, Hikari thought, but how much money do regular folks actually have to keep buying things like smoke bombs, and especially those fuinjutsu-created explosive tags? Those are things also reserved for clan shinobi to use again as well. Plus, even sword fighting, or kenjutsu, is also pretty much reserved only for ninja clans. I remember Heiate, Gecko, and the Uchiha shinobi families. They are all top-notch with swords. Getting good at using a sword isn't easy, it takes learning from generations of family know-how. And wire strings? Who was famous for using those again? Right, Suzuki Uchiha. We Hyuga clan also have our favorite weapons, which are arrows, used mostly by some auxiliary members of our clan. Hikari also totally discarded this to use weapons to improve his strength at this time. After all, he is not Hitaki, then maybe he would have considered it. And things don't get any better after graduation sadly for Konoha's civilian-born Hiruzen's fodder. Landing a Jonin instructor like the Konoha 12 did is more of a fairy tale than reality. Unless you come from a prominent background, which around 95% of academy goers don't, in my estimates. Then your instructor, or better said, team leader, is likely just a chunin who got slightly luckier than the rest. Getting someone capable of teaching you something valuable? That's down to sheer luck and fate by then. Hikari's thoughts trailed off, filled with skepticism. He pondered how the original author of this world managed to depict such stark inequalities in an extremely idealistic narrative, presenting it as if it were a fairy tale when the real state was far from it. To make things even more laughable and ironic, those talented or well-off kids from the Konoha 12, wearing their flashy outfits, with colorful appearances, got to hang out in a fancy, modern building right in the center of the village, close to where the Hokage works. Meanwhile, Hikari had now come to realize a much grimmer truth that wasn't shown in the story everyone knew. All around Konoha, there were loads of smaller, shabbier places called just teaching facilities. These were hidden away in less noticeable parts of the village. They were nothing like the fancy central building and were where thousands of ordinary village kids were trained. These kids were pretty much just being prepared to be used up in battles for the sake of Konoha's higher UPS. Forgotten by nearly everyone, their stories were never told in the main series. Let's not dwell on that anymore. I need to think about what I'm going to do in the near future, on top of my current training, to become as strong as possible, fast. And I need to figure out which skills I should focus on getting next. I hope my Byakugan unlocks some, more powerful extra ability down the line, especially after all my training with it. It's supposed to be pretty pure, definitely more so than Hinata's or Niji's, by all accounts. And those full Otsutsuki members in the original stories had way more powerful tricks up their sleeves with their Byakugan, like Kagaya, who could even read minds. Seems like the Hyuga clan's genetics have gotten pretty diluted over time, Hikari thought as he stood up to walk his courtyard to think better and stimulate his brain growth factors more. Secondly, it's a big advantage that I've got access to all these original Hyuga techniques, assuming everything goes according to plan. And having an elite jonin to personally guide me for the next few years? That's invaluable. I won't have to start from scratch, trying to invent new ninjutsu on my own, learning only from my trials and errors, which could take decades. The night enveloped him, the moon casting long shadows that danced across the ground with his every step. The traditional Hyuga architecture surrounding him, with its elegant lines and serene beauty, contrasted with the storm of ambition and determination brewing within. It's a shame I don't have any yin release jutsu to experiment with right now. The more I could connect with the yin release itself, and become familiar and skilled in it, the better I might be able to enhance my dojutsu abilities. That's another thing that'll have to wait. I guess it'll be a few years at the earliest before I can even start to learn those advanced genjutsu techniques from the main branch. The stillness of the night seemed to reflect his moment of contemplation, a silent partner to his aspirations and frustrations. The moon overhead, partially hidden by passing clouds, cast a dim light over the courtyard, adding to the ambience of anticipation and the longing for growth. The idea of trying to open the 8 inner gates using my Byakugan's internal vision and gentle fist is just ridiculous, something that netizens from my past life came up with. Honestly, if it was such a great and smart move, you'd think someone from the Hyuga clan would have already done it. And if it worked, the whole clan would be using it by now, maybe even taking over Konoha or something. However, It doesn't fit with gentle fist at all, it's much more suited to strong fist, just like Tsunade's chakra enhancement for example, which was even less suited. Plus, we Hyugas just don't have the physical resilience needed to handle that kind of strain for useful durations during longer periods of time. We inherited our eyes from Hamura, not his incredible body. The Senju clan, with their robust physiques, would be a lot better match for something like the Eight Gates. Might Dua and Might Guy, though, were exceptions with their extraordinarily tough bodies, which is why they could master such a technique out of tens of thousands of shinobi in Konoha's history. His steps were measured, a physical manifestation of his inner contemplation, as he moved with the grace and precision characteristic of a Hyuga. Each step was deliberate, echoing softly against the stone pathway that wound through the carefully manicured garden. The occasional rustle of leaves in the gentle night breeze was the only sound that accompanied his solitary figure. Medical jutsu is definitely on my list to learn in the coming years. It's probably one of the most useful skills you can have in this world. Luckily, there are plenty of high-level medical experts right here in the compound, and thanks to my status, learning from them shouldn't be too difficult. Then there's Fuin Jutsu. I've got a feeling that's going to be incredibly useful to me later on, so I should start diving into that sooner rather than later, also in a few years. The clan should have a few experts in that area as well. Regarding ninjutsu, that should also be considered only after I've mastered the gentle fist techniques up to a certain level. Initially, I should follow my innate chakra affinity attributes and learn techniques suited to them. Accomplishing that from within the clan won't be difficult. However, everything I've thought of so far requires gradually gaining more and more approval from the main branch. So, nothing will happen quickly and easily, I need to fight hard. As Hikari reflected on the path ahead, he understood the challenges that lay in gaining the main branch's recognition and approval. And the beginning of that would be tomorrow. Everything would become clearer for Hikari tomorrow, after the Hyuga Council meeting where his fate would be decided. With these thoughts heavy on his mind, he realized that there was little more he could do tonight. So, deciding to call it a night, he made his way back to his room from the tranquil courtyard that had been his companion in contemplation. Chapter 17, The Hyuga Council Meeting begins. After their second session of gentle fist martial arts training, Takumai, the fifth elder of the Hyuga clan, accompanied by his attendants, was making his way toward the Patriarch's building. They had just left his own fifth estate, stepping onto the prestigious pathways that connected the various elder estates to the Patriarch estate within the compound. The hallways and pathways were designed in the traditional Hyuga style, with elegant architecture that spoke of the clan's long and storied history. The path was lined with ornate decorations and symbols significant to the Hyuga, reflecting the clan's pride and heritage. Prestigious and well-maintained, the route through the compound showcased the power and status of the main branch. Takumai, embodying the quintessential main branch member, walked with a proud and confident stride. He was traditional, stern, and stoic, yet calculating, fully aware, and appreciative of the power and prestige his position within the main branch afforded him. As he walked, Takumai's thoughts drifted to the training session with Hikari. He was impressed by the young boy's potential, noting how at just 3 years old, Hikari showed promise that could be described as the strongest in the clan's history. With the upcoming Hyuga Council meeting on his mind, Takumai decided to advocate for Hikari. He saw in the boy an opportunity not just for Hikari's growth but for his own political power in the decades to come. Investing in Hikari at such an early stage could be the key to solidifying his own position within the clan's hierarchy. Gaining Takumai's approval was no easy feat, yet Hikari had already managed to do so, marking him as a unique talent within the clan, one that Takumai was now fully committed to supporting. As Takumai approached the Patriarch's estate, the grandeur of the building became increasingly evident. This illustrious estate wasn't just a home, it served as the largest single hub for the clan's administrative work, making it the heart of the Hyuga's power. The architecture was majestic, with towering pillars and expansive courtyards that were meticulously maintained to reflect the clan's prestige and heritage. The estate's security was tight, with highly skilled guards stationed at strategic points around the perimeter, their keen eyes missing nothing. The building itself was adorned with symbols and carvings significant to the Hyuga, including depictions of the Byakugan, which served as a reminder of the clan's unique abilities and proud history. As Takumai arrived, he noticed the other 7 elders also making their way towards the building, each accompanied by their own attendants. They used secret paths that connected their own estates to the Patriarch's building, paths known only to those of high standing within the clan. This weekly gathering of the elders was a tradition, a time when decisions were made, disputes were settled, and the future of the clan was shaped. The atmosphere was charged with anticipation as the heart of the Hyuga's power officially came together. Despite their stern expressions and stoic demeanor, there was an unspoken understanding among them of the importance of these meetings. Today, like every week, they would deliberate on matters crucial to the welfare and advancement of the Hyuga clan, each elder prepared to argue fiercely for their views and interests. Yet, beneath the surface, there was a sense of unity and purpose, a shared commitment to the clan's legacy and to its future prosperity. As each elder arrived in front of the patriarch's estate, they exchanged polite greetings, meticulously maintaining the decorum expected of their positions. They were careful to present a united front, especially in front of their side branch attendants, embodying the Hyuga clan's values of calmness, composure, politeness, and nobility. Even Takumai and the seventh elder, who had engaged in a heated verbal exchange just the day before, greeted each other with polite nods as if the disagreement had never occurred. This display of courtesy underscored the importance of stability and harmony within the clan, particularly in such public settings. Together with their attendants, the elders proceeded inside the Grand Patriarch's estate, guided by the Patriarch's own attendants. They navigated through the building's intricate wooden corridors, reminiscent of a labyrinth until they arrived at a secluded, ceremonial room designed for their gathering. The room was traditional in every sense, with tatami mats covering the floor and a large table set in the center, around which they would all sit in the customary Japanese-style posture. Now, with the Patriarch, 8 main branch elders also assembled, 10 people in total filled the room, each taking their place with deliberate care. The setting was intimate, yet the air was charged with the gravity of the occasion. Around the table, 8 elders, each with their unique features, still shared a familial resemblance indicative of the Hyuga clan. Their attire varied slightly, reflecting personal tastes but always adhering to the traditional style and colors that signified their status within the main branch. Some bore more ornate accessories, symbols of their achievements and roles within the clan, while others opted for a more understated elegance. Hiroyoshi Hyuga, the patriarch of the clan, settled into his place at the head of the table and now signaled the beginning of the meeting with a composed nod. Hiroshi, with his long, meticulously tied back hair that was nearly entirely grey by this point, radiated an aura of wisdom and authority. His traditional Hyuga robes were pristine, embroidered with the clan's symbols, signifying his esteemed position. "Let us commence," he stated, his voice carrying the weight of authority and tradition. The room immediately fell into an attentive silence. Hiroshi began outlining the current state of the clan's various business endeavors immediately. The discussion was methodical, with each elder contributing updates on trade, investments, and partnerships that the Hyuga clan maintained within Konoha and beyond. Next, the conversation shifted to potential disputes within and with outside. Hiroshi facilitated the discussion, ensuring that any internal conflicts were addressed with wisdom and fairness. "We must also consider our relations with other clans and the Hokage's group," he continued, stressing the importance of diplomacy in maintaining the clan's esteemed position within the village. The meeting then turned to administrative stuff, with elders sharing reports on the clan's internal management, resource allocation, and the well-being of its members. It was clear that maintaining a smoothly running clan was a priority for everyone present. And finally, Hiroshi guided the discussion towards the Hyuga's contributions to the village's defense, specifically mentioning the Hyuga Border Surveillance Division. However, as the discussion on formal and routine matters began to wind down, a palpable tension filled the room, hinting at the anticipation building among the elders. It was as if the air itself grew denser, charged with the collective focus of those present, all bracing for the topic they knew was imminent. This wasn't just any Hyuga council gathering, it was set to be one of the most important meetings in recent memory. Despite their age and the many council meetings they had attended over the years, each elder felt a surge of strong feelings and even excitement at the prospect of discussing this next agenda item. Noticing the shift in atmosphere and recognizing that the moment to transition had arrived, Patriarch Hiroshi sighed, a rare display of emotion that underscored the significance of what was to come. "The routine part of today's meeting is hence over, I declare," he announced, his voice steady yet imbued with a gravity that underscored the importance of their next discussion. "The next item is one of 2 particularly urgent matters prepared for today, and the first one concerns Hikari Hyuga, and the second is about the shinobi world war we are currently going through. However, after analyzing it, it is better for us to actually combine this discussion." At the mention of Hikari's name, the elders began to stir, their usual composure giving way to a mix of restlessness, excitement, and a spectrum of other emotions. It was clear that Hikari, a mere 3-year-old, had sparked a level of interest and debate rarely seen within the stoic confines of the Hyuga Council. Chairs shifted, and quiet murmurs filled the room as the elders prepared themselves to delve into a discussion that could very well shape the future trajectory of the Hyuga clan. Chapter 18, The Start of Discussion about Hikari. During the period of the last few months after we dealt with the third elder and his wife, the boy's parents, we initially couldn't reach a consensus regarding his fate. Thus, it was decided to move the matter to a later date, allowing us to periodically review his development at weekly meetings such as this. As Patriarch Hyuga Hyuga spoke, his presence commanded attention, not only through his words but also through his distinguished appearance. His aged yet sharp features were illuminated by the dim light of the room, casting soft shadows that accentuated the wisdom etched into his face. In the interim, the boy was placed under the close surveillance of the fifth elder. Given that he is the most recent addition among us and the youngest, he was eager to prove his worth and contribute meaningfully to the council. However, a significant development has since occurred. The boy has independently activated his Byakugan at just 3 years of age, marking a record-setting moment in the extensive history of our clan. Fifth Elder, I believe everyone here is keen to hear your perspective first. What do you think of the boy now? As he discussed the fate of young Hikari, those eyes revealed a mixture of solemnity and anticipation. His hands, which rested gently on the table before him, occasionally moved with deliberate gestures that underscored the importance of his words. His demeanor was one of calm control, yet there was an underlying excitement, a rare crack in his usually stoic exterior as he broached the topic of Hikari's unprecedented achievement. This subtle shift in his expression hinted at the significance of the moment, not just for Hyuga but for the entire Hyuga clan. There was no other way. Hikari's achievement in awakening his Byakugan at just 3 years old was shocking to everyone. The patriarch, his son Hayashi, and their ancestors all unlocked their Byakugan at 5 years old, and that was with special training. Before Hikari, the youngest anyone in the clan had managed to awaken their Byakugan was 4 years old, and that was a clan member who became a strong Kage-level shinobi during the Middle Warring States period, the last one in Hyuga's history. Usually, kids from the main branch of the family unlock their Byakugan at 6 to 7 years old, and those from the side branch around 9 to 10 years old. Waking up the Byakugan so early, especially without any help, was a big deal. It's well known and documented in the Hyuga clan that the sooner you unlock your Byakugan, the stronger you and your Byakugan are expected to become later in life. I understand, Patriarch, Takumai began, his voice steady yet carrying a palpable sense of significance. I will try to explain the situation. I'm sure you are all well aware of the incident involving Hikari and the 7th Elder's grandson. Yes, after the altercation in which Hikari was notably bested by Hiruto, the young boy, strangely, fell into a coma for 3 days. Takumai paused for a moment, ensuring he had the full attention of the council members. We observed significant disturbances in his chakra network throughout this period, with the trend of gradually calming down over time. It returned to a completely normal state on the 3rd day of his coma, coinciding with the moment he awoke with his Byakugan unconsciously activated, as observed by my attendants who were tasked with monitoring his condition at all times. He carefully chose his words, aware of the gravity of what he was about to propose. It is said that significant emotional disturbances can accelerate the opening of the Byakugan. Though not to the extent observed with the Sharingan among the Uchihas, it still does happen. However, considering Hikari was only 3 years old, his body might not have been fully capable of operating the Byakugan easily, which could explain the 3-day period needed to stabilize in that comatose state. Indeed, it is unheard of for anyone in our clan's history to awaken the Byakugan at merely 3 years of age, leaving us without prior cases for comparison. Nonetheless, considering the notable bloodline talent that the 7th lineage has displayed in recent decades, especially his father and mother, I believe this to be the most likely explanation. The emotional shock Hikari experienced, particularly after returning from his parents' cemetery, might have accelerated his Byakugan's awakening. After listening to Takumai's eloquent explanation, a wave of agreement washed over the council members. Their faces, usually reserved and stoic, softened with expressions of assent, and nods of approval circled the room. The initial skepticism that had clouded the atmosphere gave way to a budding excitement. The realization that Hikari's activation of the Byakugan was not a cause for concern, but rather a groundbreaking event, began to fully sink in. For the first time, the elders collectively acknowledged the magnitude of what had occurred. The reality that they were witnessing history in the making during their own lifetimes ignited a sense of excitement and pride. Among the faces of agreement and excitement, one stood out starkly. The 7th Elder's expression was a mix of annoyance and hesitation, especially noticeable after Takumai mentioned the incident involving his grandson. The mention of his grandson's actions seemed to strike a nerve, and his discomfort was palpable to those paying attention. It dawned on him, perhaps a bit too late, that Takumai's quick reference to the altercation might have been strategic, preempting any complaints he might have had about how Hikari, upon awakening with the Byakugan, had also bested his grandson. "Your speech was great, Fifth Elder," the patriarch commended, his voice carrying a note of approval that filled the ceremonial room with a sense of gravitas. "Please continue with recounting everything that happened in regards to that boy later on, and what do you think about it," he encouraged, indicating that the discussion on Hikari and his remarkable capabilities was far from over. "I arrived as soon as I was notified by my attendants and confirmed it again with my own eyes. The boy had really awakened his Byakugan," Takumai continued, recounting his first-hand experience with Hikari post-awakening. "As I engaged in conversation with him, I noted a marked change in his demeanor. He seemed much more polite and attuned to our clan's traditions than before, a subtlety that did not escape my notice, despite the stark contrast with his parents' attitudes." Takumai took a moment to reflect, ensuring he accurately conveyed the nuances of Hikari's transformation. "Over time, in our subsequent interactions, the differences in his personality became more pronounced. There was a newfound pride in him, perhaps a result of his Byakugan awakening, yet he retained a sense of humility, reserve, and discipline that was present before. The most striking change, however, was in his intellectual brightness. It was as if the awakening, or maybe the ordeal he underwent at the hands of Seventh's grandson, sparked a significant growth in his cognitive abilities. He seemed far more ambitious and eager to learn." Pausing, Takumai considered how to best articulate the shift towards what he perceived as a main branch personality. Hikari has become more aligned with the typical main branch traits, a stark deviation from the inclinations of his parents. He faced his bully without hesitation, a departure from his previously non-confrontational nature. His willingness to learn and adhere to hard training protocol, inside of his room when left alone, has been noted by my attendants. Remarkably, he accepted the cursed seal command with ease, showing no signs of viewing the practice as cruel, a stark contrast to what I imagine his parents would have advised. This is, of course, all before the actual confrontation with the Seventh Elder's grandson. Chapter 19, The Time for a Decision Has Come. In that confrontation, where Hikari faced off against one 2-year-older and one 4-year-older opponent, both of whom had received formal training unlike him, he demonstrated exceptional combat intelligence, Takumai elaborated, his voice filled with a mixture of admiration and incredulity. "I'm sure most of you are already acquainted with the details of this event, so I'll spare you the retelling. However, I want to highlight how, in that moment, he also awakened a resolve entirely on his own." Takumai's gaze swept across the room, capturing the council's attention. "What you may not know is that shortly after recovering from that encounter, Hikari managed to learn chakra extraction, producing a small chakra flame on his palm after watching me perform it just once. His Byakugan's range extends to 50 meters, an impressive feat, and all other metrics related to his Byakugan are off the charts for someone awakening it for the first time, especially considering his minimal training and his young age." The Fifth Elder paused, allowing the significance of his words to resonate with the council. "His talent in the gentle fist technique is also unparalleled in my experience. In my opinion, the boy is a natural-born genius, surpassing any we have seen before in terms of bloodline, talent, intelligence, and personality. Therefore, I truly believe that, with our full support, Hikari has the potential to elevate the Hyuga clan to new heights, achieving a level of strength comparable to legends like Madara Uchiha and Hashirama Senju. Those figures stand apart from the rest of us, but Hikari possesses the potential to inscribe the Hyuga clan's surname into the annals of such figures." As Takumai concluded his passionate endorsement of Hikari, a ripple of reactions swept through the room. The other elders, initially captivated by Takumai's account, began to murmur among themselves, their expressions a mixture of surprise, contemplation, and in some cases, undisguised excitement. The prospect of nurturing a talent potentially as monumental as Hikari's seemed to energize the council, sparking visions of a future where the Hyuga clan could ascend to unprecedented prestige and power. As Takumai spoke, the Seventh Elder's expression underwent a visible transformation. Initially marked by skepticism and a lingering annoyance from the mention of his grandson, his features gradually tightened, reflecting a growing discomfort. By the time Takumai finished, the Seventh Elder's face had become a canvas of conflicting emotions. The more Takumai praised Hikari's value and potential, the harder it seemed for the Seventh Elder to conceal his displeasure. It was clear that the prospect of Hikari, a child from a lineage he viewed with disdain, especially after the incident with his grandson receiving such high praise and expectations, was a bitter pill to swallow. However, despite the seventh elder's visible agitation, the overall mood in the room leaned toward optimism. The other elders, recognizing the rarity and value of Hikari's abilities, seemed inclined to side with Takumai's assessment. Conversations sparked around the room, with many expressing a willingness to support Hikari's development and to consider the implications of his talents for the clan's future strategies. The seventh elder, feeling increasingly isolated in his opposition, struggled to compose a rebuttal. The acknowledgement of Hikari's potential by his peers, coupled with the patriarch's earlier expressions of interest, left him in a precarious position. He realized that any opposition he voiced against supporting Hikari could be seen as personal vendetta rather than a concern for the clan's welfare, potentially undermining his credibility within the council. The seventh elder, amidst a growing consensus around Hikari's potential, knew he needed to voice his concerns, yet he understood the importance of basing his opposition on objective facts rather than personal grievances. Clearing his throat, he carefully chose his words, aiming to sway his peers with logic. While the boy's talents are undeniable, he began, his voice tinged with a measured skepticism. We must consider the broader implications of his upbringing. How are we to train him, knowing his parents', let us say, unique perspectives? Once he becomes powerful enough, might he not seek to liberate side branch members, echoing the fairy tale ideologies of his parents? However, even as he spoke, realization dawned upon him, and a flicker of regret crossed his face. He recalled how Hikari, unlike his parents, had already activated the Cursed Seal command against his own side branch members for their supposed minor transgressions yesterday. This acknowledgement undermined his initial argument, forcing him to quickly pivot. Furthermore, he hastily added, attempting to salvage his stance, there's the risk that Hikari could betray our clan to the Hokage, following in the footsteps of his parents. How can we ensure his loyalty remains with the Hyuga? The room fell into a tense silence following his words. The other elders exchanged glances, weighing the seventh elder's points. Despite his attempt to present a rational argument, the shift in his reasoning did not go unnoticed. However, despite the initial resistance to the seventh elder's concerns, his second point about the potential for Hikari to follow in his parents' footsteps and prioritize allegiance to the Hokage over the clan did resonate with some members of the council. The boy's parents had indeed gone to extreme lengths to integrate themselves into Konoha and align closely with the Hokage's faction, to the extent that they seemed more like subordinates to Hiruzen Sarutobi than loyal members of the Hyuga clan. This historical context lent a certain gravity to the seventh elder's warnings, compelling the council to consider the matter more seriously. Nevertheless, before Takumai could respond to the evolving discussion, Patriarch Hyuga interjected, his tone reflecting a deep conviction in Hikari's potential. It was evident he had fully embraced the notion of Hikari's exceptional capabilities and the need for a strategic approach to his upbringing within the clan. So, that's precisely why we won't give him everything in one go in terms of resources, techniques, positions, etc. Instead, we will do it gradually, increasing his privileges as we become more confident in his loyalty. This measured approach will not only secure his allegiance but also foster his trust, reliance, and pride in being a Hyuga clan member. The patriarch's words carried the weight of experience and authority, quieting the room as everyone absorbed his plan. After all, he is just a 3-year-old child at the end of the day. I have every confidence in Takumai's ability to instill the correct values in him over time. Let's agree to this. We observe Hikari until he turns 12 before bestowing upon him all the benefits and status due to him as the heir of his lineage, including making him the third elder at that time, as he should be. This will almost certainly ensure his integration and loyalty after receiving so much from us. The patriarch's proposal struck a balance between caution and optimism, addressing the seventh elder's concerns while still acknowledging Hikari's unprecedented promise. It was a plan that aimed to maximize Hikari's potential for the clan's benefit while mitigating the risks associated with his unique background and the actions of his parents. Patriarch, I apologize, but I feel compelled to remind everyone of another crucial fact, the seventh elder interjected, his voice carrying a hint of underlying concern. Will Hikari forgive us for what we did to his parents? Can he truly forgive our clan? There's a possibility that he might harbor a grudge. And if that's the case, what guarantees do we have that upon achieving his full potential, he won't seek retribution rather than elevate us to greater heights? What if, instead of being our clan's salvation, he becomes its executioner? Chapter 20, Hikari's status getting restored. The second elder's voice cut through the tension, offering a perspective that shifted the focus of the conversation. That is a point worthy of consideration, he acknowledged, addressing the seventh elder's concerns with a note of pragmatism. However, let us remember, the clan did not officially harm his parents, they pretty much sought death on their own. They were among the first to volunteer for the battlefield at the onset of the Second Shinobi World War for no reason. If not for the dozens of side branch members we assigned to always protect them, they would have fallen many times over. It's true that this time, we decided to have those protectors secretly withdraw during a mission against Iwagaku Shinobi, leading to their untimely demise, after sensitive information from council meetings started being leaked to the Hokage in regards to the Hyuga's mobilization negotiations with the village. He paused, allowing the gravity of his words to sink in before continuing. Rather than holding the clan accountable, it's possible that Hikari might, over time, come to question his parents' choices. They left him behind, driven to the battlefield, bewitched Hiruzen, Homura, and Koharu and the ideals of the Ninja Academy, ultimately orphaning their child. Given the shift in Hikari's demeanor that the Fifth has reported, along with Fifth Elder's thoughtful guidance, I believe the boy may come to view his parents' actions more critically. The Second Elder's comments helped steer the conversation back in favor of supporting Hikari, especially after the Seventh Elder's concerns had made them hesitant for a moment. Even before Hikari emerged as the most significant talent in the Hyuga clan's history, the council struggled with the decision of whether to take drastic action against him. Deciding to deal with Hikari, in a similar manner as with his parents, was a big deal because it meant doing something the Hyuga hadn't done in hundreds of years, potentially ending one of the 10 main branch lineages since Hikari was its last member. This was tough for the Hyuga, a family that cared about keeping things steady and in harmony, respecting traditions and history, and following what their ancestors taught. The decision was complicated by the situation with Hikari's parents. Initially, some might have thought that they directly gave away clan secrets to the Hokage. But after thinking it over, the elders realized the truth might be different. Hikari's parents treated everyone equally, even the side branch members, and probably talked about sensitive stuff without realizing who was listening. Some of those side branch members likely ended up sharing these secrets, maybe because they were pressured or tempted by Danzo Shimura and his newly established dirty organization. The crucial detail here was that the curse mark, while effective in ensuring loyalty, did not extend to a tongue seal, leaving a loophole for information to be extracted. I think the best way to proceed would be to vote on this matter. Let's vote on the previous plan I mentioned. Let's start with you, First Elder. Do you agree? With these words, the Patriarch initiated the voting process, aiming to reach a consensus on how to move forward with Hikari's future within the Hyuga clan. As the vote proceeded, each elder voiced their stance, with the room filled with a palpable sense of anticipation. The process was methodical, each elder was given a moment to contemplate the full weight of their decision before casting their vote. In the end, the vote was overwhelmingly in favor of the Patriarch's plan, a testament to the Council's trust in his wisdom and leadership. The only dissenting voices were those of the Seventh Elder and his closest ally, the Eighth Elder. The overwhelming majority in favor of supporting Hikari's development was rooted in clear, pragmatic reasoning. For the elders, the immediate gain of dividing the third lineage's commercial interests and rights, a mere 10% increase in power for each of their lineages, paled in comparison to the potential long-term benefits of allowing Hikari to reach his full potential. They recognized that Hikari's extraordinary talents could elevate the Hyuga clan to unprecedented levels of wealth and influence, far exceeding the short-term gains from seizing his lineage's assets. Furthermore, the decision reflected a deeper understanding and empathy toward the complexities of leadership and the possibility of error. Many elders, as parents and grandparents themselves, considered the potential for their descendants to stray from the clan's expectations like Hikari's parents. The thought of entire lineages facing extinction due to the actions of a few prompted a more compassionate and lenient approach. They recognized the importance of maintaining clan unity and harmony above all, opting for a path that allowed for redemption and growth. Additionally, there was a concern about the perception of the side branch members. The elders were keenly aware of the delicate balance between the main and side branches. The extinction of an entire main branch lineage could potentially embolden the side branch, disrupting the clan's internal harmony, and making them gloat. Whereas, Hikari's recent actions also demonstrated a shift towards the traditional main branch values of control and authority over the side branch. This alignment with main branch principles, especially coming from a lineage that had historically been sympathetic to the side branch, felt really beneficial to the rest of them. And it made them sure it would make side branch more obedient in the future, now that even their last sympathizers within the main branch transformed. So it is decided. My plan will be implemented from now on, the Patriarch stated, his voice resonating with finality, marking the end of the discussion and the beginning of a new chapter for Hikari and the Hyuga clan. Fifth Elder, you will continue to be responsible for him and report back to us occasionally on his progress and development. The patriarch then turned his attention to the rest of the elders, his gaze firm yet imbued with a sense of collective responsibility. Furthermore, I would like to ask everyone here to instruct your lineage members to cease any harsh treatment towards Hikari, effective immediately and indefinitely. Such measures were previously tolerated to instill in him a lesson about distancing himself from his parents' choices, and it appears to have been successful. Continuing down this path could only be detrimental from here on out. He paused for a moment, allowing his words to sink in, ensuring that the gravity of his directive was fully understood. Should you witness any behavior that disregards this directive, even after your warnings, it is imperative that you take appropriate actions to discipline those responsible within your lineages. We don't want others to gloat anymore. From now on, that boy will be cultivated by the entire clan with all our strength. He will be a pillar we will all unite behind and the one to bring us through troubled times, the patriarch declared, his voice imbued with a sense of certainty and foresight. In his final remarks, the patriarch shared his leadership philosophy, a blend of pragmatism and visionary thinking. As a leader, it has always been my duty to weigh the risk against the reward in every decision we make. While there remains a risk, albeit small, that Hikari could turn against the clan, bringing negative consequences, this risk is vastly outweighed by the potential benefits his growth and development could bring. The reward of nurturing his talents and integrating him into our future plans is nearly limitless. His words captured the essence of the council's resolution to support Hikari, encapsulating the calculated gamble they were willing to take for the betterment of the clan. The patriarch's acknowledgement of the risks involved served to underline the depth of their commitment. They were not entering into this decision blindly but with a full understanding. The seventh elder, having constantly voiced his concerns and opposition, sat quietly as the patriarch delivered his final verdict on the matter of Hikari. While the overwhelming support for the boy's development within the clan was clear, the seventh elder's expression was a complex mix of resignation and contemplation. He had raised valid points, driven by genuine concern for the clan's future, yet the decision had been made, favoring a path of potential over precaution. However, despite his eventual acceptance of the council's decision regarding Hikari, the seventh elder felt a need to address a personal grievance, seeking some form of retribution to preserve his own face or honor within the clan. Therefore, with a measured tone, indicating his intention to comply yet not fully concede, he spoke. "I will respect this collective decision today," he began, ensuring his acknowledgement of the council's authority was clear. "However, there is still another matter to discuss about the boy. After all, yesterday, he insulted my entire lineage openly in front of everyone and also used the cursed seal command on my own followers. So, I demand that he gets punished in some way at least." However, at this critical juncture, Takumai intervened, his gaze sharp as he addressed the seventh elder directly. "He insulted your lineage, but did you overlook how your grandsons first bullied him and beat him severely? They also insulted his lineage and parents multiple times. Where is the punishment for their actions?" Takumai's tone was firm, his question rhetorical yet pointed, challenging the seventh elder's demands for retribution. "Yes, he used the cursed seal command on those side branch members under your command, but let's not forget they disrespected him repeatedly in the past as well," Takumai continued, his words underscored by a sense of fairness and justice. "Moreover, you seem to overlook a crucial aspect. Prodigies of historical significance often receive more leeway within every clan due to their potential impact. And frankly, such talents are infinitely more valuable than your two grandsons who, at best, can be described as average." Takumai's forthrightness, bordering on disrespect, underscored his conviction. His unwavering stare at the seventh elder conveyed the seriousness of his rebuttal. "There's no reason to antagonize a boy of such rare talent over incidents involving children who have yet to prove their worth to the clan." The atmosphere in the room became charged as a tense silent standoff ensued between Takumai and the seventh elder. Takumai, at the age of 45, held a unique position within the council. Not only was he the closest to his prime among those present, but his strength and aura were surpassed only by the patriarch himself, making him a formidable presence in any debate or confrontation. As the only other individual in the room who could claim elite Jonin-level strength, Takumai's physical prowess lent an additional layer of authority to his words. The patriarch, a venerable figure within the clan, had once been considered quasi-Kage level before age necessitated his fall to the level of an elite Jonin at best. This rarefied level of skill set him apart, yet age had inevitably tempered his physical capabilities, as it had for the other elders. While all the elders had been elite Jonins in their youth, the passage of time had reduced their average strength to that of a Jonin. In the Hyuga clan, the position of elder was passed on based on experience and wisdom rather than physical strength alone, as it was a managerial position in essence. Consequently, each elder had younger, physically capable elite jonins in their lineage, while themselves relying on their expertise and strategic thinking to guide the clan. However, Takumai's relative youth among the council members gave him a distinct advantage, not just in terms of physical strength but also in the vitality and intensity he brought to the council. His father's early demise had thrust him into a position of responsibility sooner than most, and he had risen to the challenge with a vigor that was unmatched among his peers. The absence of any grey hair among his locks was a subtle but constant reminder of the generational shift he represented. The tension in the room, palpable during the standoff between Takumai and the seventh elder, began to dissipate as the patriarch intervened once more, his voice and demeanor bringing a calming influence back to the council's proceedings. Given that this was his first transgression, Hikari should not be punished. I think there is no need to vote on this, he declared, effectively navigating the delicate situation to give a face to both Takumai and the seventh elder. The seventh elder, despite his visible disappointment at the outcome, recognized the significance of the patriarch's stance. It was a telling moment, revealing the extent to which the clan's leadership was rallying behind Hikari. With the matter of Hikari's behavior resolved, the patriarch nodded and then smoothly transitioned the council's focus to another pressing issue. Now, let us address the second urgent matter related to the Second Shinobi World War, he announced, signaling a shift.
Thanks for listening.